Twitch and YouTube, and then I'll bring up the first guest. But if you guys can, we're almost there. Like the live. We're about to get to 1K likes.
Keep
Just
tapping.
keep your screens. We're almost there. Oh, we hit it. Okay, give me 1 sec. Let me just get the Twitch thing up, and then I'll let you guys up. But we hit the goal. I appreciate it. I do appreciate
Keep
it.
tapping, or we'll explain to you why dolphins are biologically fish, and it will ruin your day.
Biologically fit. Oh, wait, will it ruin their day?
I don't know. I learned recently that the clade vertebrate actually doesn't make sense because we classify as vertebrates animals who don't even have vertebrates.
Yeah.
Like vertebrates, sorry. I mean, you get the point.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm watching on Twitch.
Did you know that land slugs are actually more closely related to land snails compared to other animals we call slugs, like sea slugs?
Land slugs are related to which thing?
They're more closely related to snails that you see on land compared to sea slugs. It's not a monophyletic clade to say slugs. Like, gastropods just happen to lose their shells independently in different branches of their evolution.
Interesting.
They just do that sometimes.
Okay, and I am just about ready. Hold on. Things are always getting tangled in my room, in my desk. Let's start it. Hold on.
Keep tapping, guys. Keep doing the thing.
Ugh. All right, and then
the comments are pretty gold. If no God, then why are you feeling in my tummy?
Why am I feeling in my tummy?
Because you don't eat enough fiber. That's why. Just eat more fiber.
It's an evolutionary sense of like a guilty conscience or feeling bad about things. That's beneficial for survival because we need to like work with each other in order to survive. Courtney, whenever you're free, I got a question for you, but we don't have to answer it in this live. But like, I sent you a DM. But that's good.
Do you mean we're a social species like other great apes? That's crazy.
Oh no! We're social. It's such whoa. But yeah. Okay. I'll answer you later, Courtney, either today or tomorrow. I'm wondering if both of those people in the debate that you told me to host, are they both 18? That's what I was gonna ask you. But that's really it.
Keep tapping.
But okay, now I'm gonna bring up the first guest. Sorry for the wait.
I will get back down. Keep tapping.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you for being here, man. I appreciate you. But yeah, we'll get to our first guest. What's up, Travis? What you got for me?
Well, I think before you ask, does the Christian God exist? It's more of a debate whether God exists, and then you have to go from there. So I was wondering why you don't believe God exists if there is a better explanation for the creation of the universe.
Yeah, I would say I'm agnostic. I'm agnostic, so I don't really know what created the universe, but I am building like a worldview, and I'm trying to figure out like what could possibly explain why the universe is built. And based off of my research, there are plenty of world models that would explain how the universe was created. That doesn't have to be like a God world model. And these world models would even offer more parsimony than the God world model, in my opinion.
What world model would that be exactly?
Yeah, so someone could argue for like an infinite regression, right? Where there's just like an infinite regress of like causal principles that are just continuously causing the next and the next and next causal principle. That's like one world model somebody could hold to. But then also someone could just make the same move that the Christian is making and say that the universe existed eternally. That's just like, like the universe is contingent or it just existed eternally, and that's their presupposition for their worldview, just like the Christians presuppose that God existed eternally and he's the grounding for their worldview. And with that, right, someone could just say the universe is eternal, there's no need for a God or an extra like intellectual burden, and from there everything else is just natural laws that happen to be characteristics of our universe. and we're just observing these things that happen to be here due to the universe. Also, I mean, like there is scientific laws we have that sort of correlate to that idea. Matter can't be created or destroyed, and energy can't be created or destroyed.
Okay, so to the first one, obviously there has to be an original cause. So I I
Why is
don't
that
know.
entailed? Like why is that? Why must that be the case? Do you have like an argument for that?
Well, how can something be without a cause?
I agree. Like there has to be like some kind of cause or source, but why couldn't there be an infinite amount of causes going back? Just a continuous chain of causes, especially being that energy can't be created or destroyed.
Well, because you'd have to start with one original cause, because if you don't have the first cause, you don't have any clauses, because then you're just saying that essentially nothing caused something, which is something that we have never observed in the real world ever.
Wait, but you're
And you
saying
have,
like you're saying there has to be like one ultimate cause that caused everything, right?
there has to be an original cause, the first cause.
So what caused that? What caused the first cause?
I believe God, you believe nothing.
Well, I mean, I didn't say in this conversation that I believe that nothing caused the universe.
But with the causal theory, or I
I
guess
said
I
that.
call it the contingent theory, where everything is contingent on something happening previously causing it. Eventually there has to be a first cause, otherwise you just end up with nothing into nothing.
Well, I mean, you're saying that you can't get something from nothing, but you're saying that there's this first cause that's what uncaused.
Yeah, there has to
Because
be a first cause that's uncaused.
so that would literally be something from nothing. You have this first cause that doesn't have a cause; it just exists, and it's the first of a causal chain. That would be something from nothing. Where did that cause come from? Where did the first cause come from?
Well, if you believe eternally, God is eternal, meaning he has no beginning and no end,
Okay,
then nothing had to cause God.
okay, yeah. So
God,
like, so God is eternal. He has no beginning, no end. I mean, literally, like the atheist could make the same move. They could say the universe is eternal. It had no beginning, no end.
yeah, but fundamentally, for there to be um, observable things, there's always had to be observable things, if that makes sense. I don't think I have the vocabulary to exactly describe what I'm thinking right now. If,
Yeah, and that's like that's totally fine. You know, like all of us are learning. I'm still learning. Like I don't know
yeah,
everything. It's totally fine if you don't have the words to describe like your thought process right now. Sometimes I don't have the words to describe like what I'm saying. But
yeah.
you're saying you're saying that so you're saying there always had to be something to create something, right? That's like kind of what you're trying to say.
Yeah, that's my belief.
Well, yeah, like, but then again, right? Like, let's say that your worldview is that God is the first cause that created everything. That's the something that created something. Yeah, the atheist could argue that the universe always existed. That's the first cause. That's the something that created something. They're making the same move that you're making, and it's more parsimonious because it has less intellectual burdens because you have a God that existed eternally, and then he creates the universe. The atheist just cuts out God and starts with the universe and says the universe is eternal and makes the same move that you make and can still account for everything that exists in our reality.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying there, but it also doesn't make sense if you say the universe was the first cause, but
Wait, why is that? Why don't you think it makes sense to say the universe was the first cause?
because there's no intelligence behind the universe, if you understand what I'm saying. Like
Wait,
God, we believe, is an intelligent mind and infinitely smarter than us, but I don't see how you can get a rational thinking mind from a non-rational thing, such as just an
wait,
asteroid.
so like, wait, what about the universe is intelligent?
Well, because if you have no intelligence or design, life wouldn't work the way it does.
But I mean, like, I don't really see like design or like I don't really see intelligence behind life. I see complexity, but I don't really see like an intention or design or intelligence. It's just the way that it is, right? And like, I think whenever you're saying that like life is intelligent, you're looking at all the examples where life went right, right? Like, oh, look at healthy human bodies. This is an intelligent design. But you're not looking at like the people who are born blind or the people who are missing an arm or the people who are born with like allergies or diseases or conditions like schizophrenia or ADHD or anxiety. There's a lot of variance when it comes to like human existence. And there are things that people like struggle with, right? So like, there's a wide variety of like how the human race or like animals or organisms exist, and sometimes it's to the detriment of the subject at hand. So it's not like always like intelligently designed, unless God like wanted to give people anxiety, wanted to make people blind, wanted to make people born without a leg, wanted to make people with cancer. um, do you think like cancer is an intelligent design?
Well, so if you are going by my worldview, those things are obviously because we live in a cursed world, according to Christianity. So you can explain those things, but I don't think that they're always a detriment. For instance, me personally, I have two bad hips, right? They cause me pain, they cause me back pain. They have since I was little, and they will until the day that I die. But I also think that that's a huge part of my plan, and seeing the resilience that I get that possibly I wouldn't have gotten without that. So I would
Yeah.
argue that you can turn anything that somebody would call a bug into a feature if you frame your mind around it correctly.
Yeah, but okay, so like, but what about like known to man today, right? There's like thousands of like fatal infant conditions, right, that exist in regards to like how an infant can be born, and not every baby makes it out of the hospital. Some babies just are born in the hospital and they will pass away in the hospital. I don't really think that's like intelligently designed, right? Babies are born with leukemia. Some babies are born with like their nervous system outside of their body exposed to the elements. Some babies are born, where their heart is not beating correctly, and it could lead to them passing away in that hospital. And so, yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like, some struggles can lead to like character building, but there are struggles that like there's no point in these struggles existing. A baby will like be born in the hospital and it will die in the hospital, and there was kind of like no point to like that baby having to go through that. It wasn't for its character development or anything.
Okay, but also I'd have to push back on the fact that if there is no God, and essentially that means reality and morality are subjective and
Well,
there is no ultimate law, why does that matter? And also, if you are a Christian, I would argue it's better for the baby because they get to go up and see and be in heaven earlier than
yeah.
if they lived a full life.
Yeah, but they just have to suffer, right? So like the baby gets to go to heaven, but the baby just has to experience like suffering and like having that cancer in the hospital for a short period of time before they can go to heaven. If God didn't want them to live in the first place, I mean, God knows the future and he knows that the baby's going to have cancer when it's born in the hospital. God could have just chosen not to create the baby and just like send the baby straight to heaven. Why does God want the baby to pointlessly suffer before it goes to heaven? What's the utility in that?
Well, that is true, and I don't know the utility in it. No, I don't think anybody can answer that question, but I'd have to push back on the if there is no God, everything is subjective, so you couldn't make an argument that, you know, it's wrong for a baby to suffer because somebody might think it's moral to make a baby suffer and it's all subjective.
Well, yeah.
So
Well, I mean, like not like without God, there are secular positions you can take in regards to like morality. Like there's a branch of philosophy called moral realism where people believe in moral facts outside of reality and they have a way of grounding it. But regardless, like that's morality. We were talking about we were talking about whether like our worldviews could explain like why we're here or why the universe came to be, or if it's possible to have like a worldview that works without God.
yeah, I guess I don't see necessarily how that could be.
But do you understand what I was saying earlier about how like somebody could hold to like the universe being eternal and make the same move that the Christian can, or somebody can hold to like an infinite regress, um, and like did you get the answers that I gave for like some of your questions?
Yeah, I do understand that, but I think all these loop back into the same thing that, if your argument could be, well, babies suffer unnecessarily, for me, I think an adequate pushback to that is, if there is no God, why does it matter? Because ultimately, morality and everything is just a big accident and it's all subjective. So,
Well, like let me ask you this, right? If God didn't exist, would you say your life doesn't matter to you?
yeah.
Wait, so like let's say
If God didn't exist, I would genuinely consider I think I'd get banned. But
oh wait, so like if you found out tomorrow that God doesn't exist, you would you'd say that there's no reason to continue living? Like you would just
no, I don't think there is, because then once you're gone, it's just nothingness, and we experience enough suffering in this life as to where nothingness would be better. But with the fact that Jesus came down, actually suffered on a cross.
well like okay, so well actually like so like I get what you're about to say, but like I would just disagree with you, right? If we find out like tomorrow that God doesn't exist, I think that life is beautiful. I think that there's plenty of experiences out there that are out there to like have. I think that people can make meaning out of their lives without God, and I think that we still have value without God. We're human beings who can think. We're human beings who have emotions. We're human beings that hurt and suffer and feel pain. I think that without God, there's still value in human beings, and there's still experiences that we can have. Um, We don't need God to like have a reason to continue like living. Um, so like I think people can value things and have like attitudes towards certain moral like affirmations without God being the necessity for that. Um, and also like even in a subjective lens, I don't think like all even in a subjective lens, I don't think that like all morality or moral prescriptions are like equally justified. Like if you were to put two people down at a table and they were both like sitting in chairs and looking at each other, and one person says, I want to go around unaliving people because I want to, and the other person's like, maybe we shouldn't unalive people because, you know, all of us want to live, all of us have plans, dreams, and like desires for our lives. You know, unaliving people would, you know, lead to humans ceasing to exist. Unaliving people would create a society that none of us want to live in. Like, if two people sat down, you know, clearly there are moral stances that are more justified than others or have more benefits either out of utility or a varying amount of reasons. So there are ways to parse out what we should do and what we should not do without God existing. So I don't think like I don't think if God doesn't exist, like there's no way to have morality and our lives are meaningless. I think we can give our lives meaning and we can still determine morality without like God existing.
But still, if there is no God, there is no standard, and your birth was an accident, a 1 in a billion chance, your life was an accident, and the only thing that
So like why do you think there is no standard? We can make a standard. We can use our reasoning and faculties and come up with a standard without God. We don't need God to like tell us what the standard is.
But that's still subjective. So
I mean, yeah, but like what's the problem with that? What's the problem with like having people sort out through the subjectivity and determine what would be the best type of morality to take?
Because then fundamentally it's just your own opinion, meaning who cares if the race survives? Who cares if you know, people do horrible things? I don't like that, so
well, I mean, like, it's not who cares. I think a lot of people would care. A lot of people don't want to be unalived or stabbed or robbed or treated poorly. I think a lot of people would care about, like, what we do to each other. I don't think, like, if God doesn't exist and there's not an objective moral stance, that we don't care about, like, being stabbed or raped, right? We still care about those things. We still, like, are against those things. Wait, actually, let me ask you this. If God didn't exist tomorrow, would you go out and grape somebody?
no.
Wait, why?
Because God wrote it. I believe this is wrote on everybody's hearts.
Wait, hold on. But like, let's say that God didn't exist tomorrow. Would you grape somebody?
No, I'd probably rob a bank, though.
Wait, why would you do that?
Because it doesn't matter. There is no standard, so I think robbing a bank to get money is good.
Okay, but why specifically wouldn't you grape somebody if God didn't exist?
I could never see myself doing that in a million years.
But why?
Because I believe that it's written on my heart. I feel disgusted.
But if you found out that God existed tomorrow, if you found out that God didn't exist tomorrow, that means God didn't write it on your heart. So, you know, why wouldn't you grape somebody?
But if God didn't exist and didn't write it on my heart, I probably would. It would help my family survive.
No, it wouldn't help your family survive. That'd be wrong to do, regardless of whether God existed. You shouldn't grape people.
By what standard is it bad, though? That's what I'm asking. Because
you can't. So you're telling me you need God to tell you not to grape people?
No. See, now you're doing this.
Wait, hold on. Wait. Answer that. Do you need God to tell you not to grape people for you to not grape people?
No, I believe it's written on my heart by
Well,
God.
let's say that God didn't exist. Do you need it to be written on your heart for you to not grape people?
Yeah, probably, because the people who don't are probably the ones that do it.
Well, I mean, like, I think that's I don't mean this in an offensive way, but I mean, that's kind of unfortunate, right? There are plenty of people who don't need God or need that to be written in their hearts for them to not grape other people.
Okay, but again, I ask, by what standard is that bad if there is no God? Because
Well, yeah,
everything would
but
be
given
subjective.
so like I can grant a subjective standard, right? And yeah, it's just going to be my standard. I don't need God to tell me not to grate people. I won't grate people because I have value for human life, and people have value for their own lives. And also, like, there are like moral realist positions. When we look at nature, nature just has like a natural default to want to survive. And so anything that's like kind of, against human survival, that would be deemed bad or not good or anti-nature, right? And so like one could argue that like given nature, given how we exist, given the way we exist, there are clearly things that are bad and detrimental to our health and our survival. And there are things that are, beneficial for us in regards to our survival. And like the beneficial things would be good, and then the negative things would be bad. Because nature just naturally inclines towards survival. So there's some kind of like objective character trait about our universe that tends to curve towards survival.
But then you are. So then the
like-
universe wrote it on our hearts that we shouldn't murder people. Oh, I probably might get you banned for that. Sorry.
Oh no, you're totally good. But yeah, like it could be the case that maybe this is just like a natural characteristic of our universe, and there's no need for a god. This just happens to be how our universe existed. And there's just going to be a precept, just like God is a precept for the Christian worldview to some extent.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that point.
Yeah, but do you see how like that's a good worldview that somebody could take, and they could be like a moral realist in doing that, and so they wouldn't need God?
But I still don't think there can be an objective morality if there is no God.
Okay. Well, let me tell you this. I do have to move on to my next guest. So I would say, like, if you want to, you don't have to. I would say, like, try looking into like moral realism. That's a very well studied field of philosophy that argues for like moral facts that are objective without the need of a god. There's like secular moral realism. Try looking into that, but like if you're not big on philosophy, then that's fine. If you need papers to look at, I can suggest to you the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. But yeah, like there are whole fields of philosophy that talk about like moral facts outside of God, and they provide their justification and argumentation for those worldviews.
Yeah, I will look into it when I get some time.
Yep, yeah. But yeah, no, it was good having a conversation with you, and I do have to move on to my next.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, come back anytime. Ask me any questions, and yeah, we'll talk.
Sounds good.
I bet. Thank you guys for being here. Wow, we're at 4.7 thousand likes. I literally appreciate it. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you guys watching the stream. You guys could be anywhere right now, but you're choosing to spend time with me. I'm playing GTA and streaming it to YouTube and Twitch. And I'm debating here on my platform. But today's not a debate day. Today's a conversation day. It's Casual Talk Tuesday, so I'm having more conversations, not debates. I'm not going to be throwing insults or being toxic or debating people. I'm going to be having conversations. But thank you guys for being here. I'm going to move on to the next guest. I am streaming video games on YouTube and Twitch if you want to check that out. We got 2 viewers on YouTube. That's pretty cool. I have to check my Twitch because I get messages there. No, we don't really have anyone on Twitch. Most of my viewers are going to be from TikTok. But yeah, I'm going to bring up the next guest and we can discuss. Let me do that right now. I have to check the DMs. Daughter of... Yeah, I have to check the DMs. Sorry, I've been at work and like busy all day. But yeah, I will get that figured out by tomorrow. I'll decide whether I'm gonna do that debate or not. But I'll let you know in well enough time. Let's see. I'll do this guy. I mean, I saw your DMs. I also saw the heart me. Thank you for the gifts, guys. I reinvest the gifts back into my project, so I really appreciate it. What you got for me, Jimmy?
Hello?
Hello.
So, the question is, does the Christian God exist? I don't know. But how do we know that the other ones don't exist?
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm an agnostic and I'm building like a worldview. And yeah, like I'm open-minded and I'm doing research on like trying to figure out if the Christian God exists. The other day I was taking notes on like Jesus and the resurrection, and I was looking at like Bible passages and stuff, and like yeah, I'm trying to figure out whether he does exist. And to be honest, like it's totally fine to say that you don't know whether the Christian God exists. That's an honest answer. It's better than like making something up, you know?
So you got any good arguments from people here that said that he do exist?
Like I'm gonna be honest, not really, but like there's some good refuting arguments to some of like the arguments I have against the Christian God. So like I typically argue like problem of evil, and like something that someone has brought me is like Alvin Platinga's transworld depravity concept, which I think is a pretty good argument against the logical problem of evil, but it doesn't really talk about like animal suffering. It does account for like human suffering, maybe, but I do also need to look more into Platinga anyway. But I think that's probably a really solid argument or idea brought forth to me. Alvin Platinga's transworld depravity concept. And then yeah, like there have been some good arguments against like the problem of the Trinity, the counting problem, or the LPOE, the logical problem. The LPOT, I think, or the LPT, logical problem of the Trinity. I think there have been some good counters to that issue, but the Trinity is still confusing a little bit, you know. But yeah, there's been some good arguments. I actually joined this app and I started doing this project, and I went from atheist to agnostic. I used to say that the Christian God doesn't exist, and I was like vehemently against the Christian God, but I've actually changed my position because I think there's good arguments on both sides. So I don't know. It's like 50-50.
Yeah, well, I changed too. I became agnostic too.
Let's go. Okay.
Well, you know what I think is cool though?
Yeah.
You ever heard about Buddha?
Oh yeah, I've heard of Buddhism and like the Asian religions.
What I think is cool is that they don't even got missionaries. They don't send people to preach, but they are like the third largest religion in the world just because people think it's cool.
Okay.
Ain't that interesting?
No, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, I heard like Buddha was like, I heard someone told me that I think Buddhism might be an atheistic religion, but like I have to double check. But I'm pretty sure that's what someone told me.
Yeah. You know, I asked a guy about like the dinosaurs and stuff and like evolution. And you know, he told me God made science too. And then that got me thinking like, damn, that's kind of true.
Yeah.
Science and religion don't got to contradict each other, you know?
Oh yeah, like there are plenty of Christians who believe in science as well. They don't only like they don't only believe in religion.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, so
I think we're on the same page.
Science is compatible with religion, you know. It just kind of depends.
What game you playing, by the way?
I'm playing GTA 5. Sorry if I seem distracted.
You on the roleplay server?
No, I don't do the role plays. I just do missions and like make a little bit of money for my character, but not really.
All right, well, I think you're a cool guy.
But
I don't have much to say other than I agree with you.
Okay, and yeah, give me a follow. I'll follow you back. I gotta unfollow some people on my account because you can only follow like 10,000 people max. But yeah, follow me. I'll follow you back, and like keep up with me. I'll keep up with you. We're both agnostics, trying to figure out if God exists. And like, yeah, let's trade
You ever heard of the
information.
Purple Book?
Say what?
You ever heard of the Purple Book?
I don't even know. No, I don't know what that is.
Apparently, it's like some Bible study. Like you read the Bible, it's like a study guide or something. Seems kind of interesting.
Okay. Huh, I might have to look into that. DM it. Send that to me. DM it to me, and I'll look into it. The Purple Book.
Yep.
Interesting.
All right. Well, you take care.
Yeah, I'll see you around. I'm gonna get to my next guest. But yeah, it was good talking to you. Thank you guys for being here. If you can, like and share the live. Like and share the live. I'm doing pretty good. You know, these are pretty good conversations. 1v1s. I enjoy this. Rowdy Rod says there's no good arguments for Christianity. I think there are some. I think there are a few arguments I'm like, oh, okay, wow, that's clever. I think that some Christians do a good job of looking at the context of the Bible. They don't just read the Bible. They also look at the ancient culture at the time and really try to understand the meaning or what the ancient people were trying to say when they wrote the Bible. I think there's some pretty good things. There's some pretty good things in the Bible that I find pretty interesting. Also, if I'm talking to you guys and I seem distracted, sorry if I seem a bit distracted, playing GTA and also debating at the same time, but I'll try to give you as much attention as I can, given how distracted I am. But yeah, I'll try my best. But anyway, next guest. Hold on. Let me do. Okay, I see a familiar face in the comment section. In the guest request. But what's up, what you got for me?
Ooh, I got quite a bit.
Go for it.
Seems like the Jimmy guy that was here before me. He's definitely tuned in with the same frequency and stuff. I'm also kind of like a realist, and I've found something that connects everything kind of together. And if you want to hear it out, let me know.
Sure, I'll hear it out.
Well, hold on here. Let me just I've been writing it down. I can't read my own writing. That's sad, isn't it?
Okay, go for it.
All right. I start off with what we do know is when we're born into this world, we experience life, right? And then we become unalived, and then we take nothing with us. But we do leave something behind. And what that is our children. And so with that concept, we have to be raising our children properly by raising them to be better each time, right? And passing down our core values.
Yeah.
Because that seems to be the only thing that we get to leave behind every single time. And so by that understanding, we have to raise our children not just to be better, but to be good. And then the next step is if you were to watch your your children and they were suffering, and then they prayed for help, you would be like, oh dang, I wish I could go back down there, right? So it's hypothetically saying that if we are a spiritual being that connect back to whatever particle, if it does exist, but we're just imagining if it does, we would want to send ourselves back down just to help, right?
Yeah.
But maybe there was a condition, possibly a condition where we have to forget everything, and then so with that, why are we coming back down to help our kids? Because they're struggling, and so we have to solve problems, and that's where the other purpose or objective came in is to solve problems. And just like hell, if you don't solve your problems, you are gonna repeat it, and it sounds like we might be in hell. Funny, right? But so problems reoccur if you don't solve it, and that's kind of relations to generational curse. When you say,
yeah, so like, are you talking about are you started talking about like reincarnation, or like talking?
I guess so. It sounds like it, doesn't it? Like, can you imagine if we all died and we just saw our families in a different dimension, but we wanted to help them so badly that we if we were to be sent down on a mission, we would go down again, but then the cost of that would be to erase our slate or memories clean, right?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
So,
Okay.
so that means we would have to solve problems But to get to a certain area, we have to be self-aware. And I think there is a quicker way we can level up. And just like I'm sure you watch Dragon Ball, right?
Oh yeah, dude, I fucking love Dragon Ball Z.
Right, exactly. So instead of going to school and to save some more time, we can actually transfer our consciousness over to our children by just teaching our children directly instead of going to school. I mean, if you're a doctor, you might as well just teach me to be a doctor or teach me everything you know. Would be probably be faster because we'll be working at a different pace than school.
Wait, so like, but like, how do we demonstrate that like this reincarnation thing actually like exists in reality?
Well, I'm just saying if it does, but hopefully, it might not. Who knows? But we keep that possibility open. In fact, you know what? Why don't we just keep all our doors open in case one is we'll be like Doctor Strange in the multiverse. We have so many different options to choose from. Whichever one occurs, well, hey, we'll have the answer.
Okay, I guess I'm kind of just looking for people who can like demonstrate that it actually like exists, like reincarnation or like being
Yes.
God or anything.
Mm-hmm. And you've heard about the double slit experiment, right? The slit atom observation experiment, something along those lines.
I'm not like super well versed on it, but like yeah, I've heard about that experiment.
So what it is, I can explain it to you. What it is, it's like if you were to watch an atom, and it would act differently, and that would resemble if you were watching your child. He would
Yeah, but
behave,
like,
right?
isn't the reason that like it acts differently because we do something to the atom?
Yes, we think about it, and it does something that we tell it to. And on top of that, atoms are kind of just like cells; they multiply on its own.
Yeah, but it's like we have to do something in order to get that change. It's not like doing it on its
Yes,
own.
yes, our consciousness creates it, so that means that we have to believe in it for it to change. And it reminds me of and that experiment helped me reach something. I don't know if it was a dream, but it made a lot of sense.
Wait, hold on,
But
wait.
I think
So what was the experiment that you quoted from?
there is
The double split experiment.
yeah, the slit atom observation experiment. I can't remember the exact name that it was called, but I got the concept of it, and I can actually translate that in real term where we can actually try it out in real life.
Yeah, like I don't think that like that doesn't really have anything to do with consciousness. That's like
Oh, it plays a role. It plays a role for a bigger picture that all makes sense later on. I
it's
promise you.
like, wait. So walk me through it one more time. So like, what are they doing exactly? They're
So it needs an observer, which is somebody. If we were to watch this atom, with
yeah.
it knows it's being watched, and when it is being watched, it acts differently and it does things, and we don't know what it does. But I have a belief that it actually does things that we imagine it to, or we believe in it to.
Yeah. So like that's talking about like an atom, right? That doesn't really have anything to do with consciousness, and for that to even work, right? Like we have to do things to that atom. But like,
Right.
what essentially was that project trying to prove?
Well,
Um,
the whole purpose of this is a concept that God is trying to prove to Himself that He exists.
I don't think. Okay, so like I see where you're going
Yeah,
with it, but like I
there's more
don't
to it.
think that project really makes that point.
Well, let me explain how it works in real term. Like in today's society, it would be like if you and I were sitting down at the park, and I said, "Hey, look," and we're just watching a whole bunch of people, right? And I said, "Hey, look, let me see if I can get this guy to do something silly." And when I do, you'll be amazed because it was for you to see. And with that being said, like I mean, you could have him do anything ridiculous, and he'll do it, and you'll be like, "Wow, why did he do that?" It's because we are all connected, and that proves to you that God does exist. And because I've
Huh.
actually tried this, and it was wild, and I couldn't believe it. And
Hold on, wait, say that one more time. Wait,
yeah,
like,
this is the supernatural part that kicks in right here.
wait, you're saying we're all
Um,
connected, but like, how so?
so the moment we're born into this earth, we are already conditioned to be taught that to come apart from or further away from source or God or whatever you want to call him. Uh, but the more you study into it, the more you study into the educational system of this world, you get further away because everything is actually in reverse and it's all backwards.
Wait, but like that's not really demonstrating God. Like, well, like where's that demonstrating God? And
Well, the split atom experiment, it's a proof that you need to see to experience it, and the best way to get there, you actually have to train your body to. And Christ consciousness.
Wait, no. Okay, actually, hold on. So that double.
I know it's a bit scattered, but it's a necessary purpose for it.
We know. So like that double slit experiment. Like I knew I heard it somewhere. I knew that like I've heard of it before. It was actually on Matthew's live. Matthew is in the comments. I took notes on what he was saying on the double slit on the slit experiment, right? And the thing is that we notice the changes because we're observing it, and by observing it, like it's kind of like the tool observe because we're observing it, and by observing it, like thing to the, and it's having like an effect on it, right? And like I'm not that well read. Everybody that's here, 13 people, like go to Google, type in double slit experiment, and actually read on the information. But the only reason that we see those changes is because we're using a tool to like look at it, and it's causing certain effects in it, right? If we didn't use the tool, then there wouldn't really be those changes. And like I don't see how that having like that thing that we're doing with an atom or whatever it is, right, has anything to do with like with God.
The same concept.
Connected.
The same concept explains. I'm sorry for interrupting, man. Go ahead.
Oh, and like okay, yeah, Matthew's like telling me about it in the comments. They use a laser, it adds energy into the system, and it creates effects on the atom. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Matthew has done his research on it, and so the only way for us to observe it with a laser, right, which obviously is going to like change it, and so it's not doing it on its own. But this doesn't really prove God.
Right. Yeah. So basically, that one smallest atom is actually if we zoom out, it will become like whatever we shape it to be whenever it builds up a building block of something that we imagine it to be, right? And then if we zoom out even further, it would look like the Earth, Moon, and Sun. And the so it's like a, and if we zoom out even further, the galaxy, our eyes are literally like we are the like God is the body itself of all creation. And in this plane that we're currently on, he has no jurisdictions, or he can't do anything because we exist on this plane and we are sent through him. And to prove that was the experiment that you can prove in the open field with in a crowd. Not everyone will do anything weird.
That doesn't really prove that God is like in a different plane than us. And also, it wasn't an atom; it was an electron. So yeah, they're firing a laser at an electron and seeing the effects of that. But that's not really proving that God exists or that He exists in a different plane than us.
No, that's the story. That's the concept. So that's the concept that how He is going to show you that He exists, and that's how you're going to end up believing it. Because in one version that we're in, where we make someone do something weird, when you see it happen on your own, and you feel like you have psychic powers because you just made some person do something out of something ordinary, and that's because that was for you to see, for you to believe. And once you do it or you perform a weird trick like that, it's pretty wild, and it turns out that it's actually pretty common.
So it seems as if you're using like the double slit experiment as like an analogy for like God.
Yes. Yes. So same as that, but in the same experiment is basically in real time through the human body experiment.
But how does that demonstrate that God exists? Like,
it actually explains your psychic powers. You get to see your powers in action.
Wait, I don't think we have. Like, how do we demonstrate that we have powers? Like, I don't think we have psychic.
We do, and that's how we prove it. Is that I get to show you that you have powers by you trying out this experiment, and now that you know
the double slit experiment.
Yeah, now you can perform it in real life, in your own physical body. Basically, you just go to the crowd of people and point at a person and tell them to do something.
Wait. Yeah, but like that's just me giving commands to somebody. That's not me like using lasers to split, interact with electrons.
Right. This is how right. So I'm translating it that concept into how we do it, because we are made out of the same things, and we do have the consciousness and observations, and God is there when there's two consciousness or more. Just like the birds, if there's one or two birds, God is there.
Yeah,
and that's like, consciousness itself.
I don't really see how any of this is really like mapping on, or how this like analogy is.
There's more to it. Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt you, man. There's actually like several there's like several things to it where it all comes together, And for you to be able to perform these magic tricks or magic or actual godlike gifts, you have to achieve enlightenment, and that's the Christ consciousness and Buddha and all that
Wait,
stuff that people are talking
hold
about.
on. Like all these gifts, like I mean, like how are they demonstratable? Like you're just telling me that you've just told me about somebody like saying something and getting people to do stuff, but that's not really showing me like
Right.
psychic abilities. And like the double slit experiment had nothing to really do with that. And like I don't see how people can do it themselves. Or, like
So
we know.
imagine that you were the observation. You were the consciousness observing the atom, and that's
Yeah.
what we're gonna do, or that's what you're gonna do when you have some free time, and then experiment yourself. But you have to be able to have a connection, and that connection is when you see two consciousness or more other than yourself.
Yeah, I'm not sure that really maps on.
Hmm.
Um,
I wonder if I can show you, but
effect. Like I'm pretty sure that's not the observer effect. Like I don't
no,
think.
that's the atom. That's the split atom is for observing effect for an atom, but we're actually humans, so we're gonna do that same concept, same idea, but just in human form. And what it's supposed to prove is it's supposed to prove your that we're all connected. Or shoot,
Yeah, I'm just as confused. Like I don't think this is it. But
oh no, you just don't understand what I'm trying to say. That's all.
yeah, but I mean, like, yeah, I would need like a demonstration of psychic abilities. I don't think we have psychic abilities, and like, we're not splitting electrons. We can't do that
No, we're
ourselves.
not. It's always so. It's a this the slit experiment is an idea, a concept of consciousness observing, right? So we're gonna do that in real time, which is our bodies and doing it physically in the real world by observing some stuff, and then when the signal is right,
We can't do it physically in the real world. We can't.
we can. We can go ahead and check out. I mean, there's people doing it every now and then, and those are the people who have an awakened ability.
Wait, what specifically are you saying? Like we can do in the real world?
Yeah, we. It's
What
proof that
specifically is that thing that you're trying to get
uh,
to?
you, you can literally command someone to do something, and that's because that person is entwined with you, and that you're connected with that individual at a different space and time, but it's all happening all at once,
Wait,
and
no,
you can literally.
that's just human communication via like
But you're not.
wave.
I mean, from a distance, you're not gonna be. You're not. He doesn't know that we're watching him and
Oh wait,
doing it.
you're talking about telepathy?
Yes.
Wait, I don't think there's been a single experiment where we've confirmed that telepathy works. Like,
That's because people don't know how to look it up.
we
You gotta look it up on YouTube. There's people doing it, and once they see it, they get mind blown, and then, dude, I was in freaking. So I live in the Bay Area, San Francisco, California, and
yeah.
when I got this you know technique, I actually literally just went out there, and I started performing magic tricks alongside these strangers I didn't even know. And these strangers, we were all entwined and connected, and it felt weird. It felt uncomfortable.
Wait, you said you were
And,
doing magic tricks?
yeah, and I'm not a magician, and I didn't
No.
even know what I was doing, but I was just going with the flow of things.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this like I'm not sure if this is actually a thing. Like, like I would have to see like any way to like measure or like verify like
Oh yeah,
empirically of some sort that you were actually like
you
doing
would,
this and like there was
you
something
would,
else
you would
going
have to
on.
do that. And the best way to get there is to actually first get yourself to be. You have to get your body, you have to get your mind, body, and soul connected. Meaning, you got to understand your emotions, and you have to understand ego, and you have to understand how our body lies to us. Like anger is your body's way of telling you that you're wrong or you don't know how our body lies to us. Like anger is your body's way of telling you that you're wrong or you don't know
find it to be too.
Has, just God and everything. So first I wanted to start by saying that, when I'm talking about God, I don't really like to use the Bible because I do know that it was man-made, and I do know it's a lot of contradictions and things in there. However,
How do we know that?
every item within your home, was created by someone, right?
You can give it priors.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I would say everything in my home I know was created by somebody given priors.
Right. But you don't actually need to see somebody make the items in your home to know it was created, right?
Um, I mean, like, I think if I didn't see someone create the items in my home, I would know that there's a source to like where this item came from, and then I would investigate um, and figure out like what that source is. But I don't automatically assume like an intelligent mind is creating certain things. I would need to like look into it.
Okay. Well, I would say this. If we see an item like for a phone, for example, it's either A, it could have put itself together, or B, somebody created it, right? Do you think there's any other answer outside of those two possibilities?
Um, I don't. Wait, ask me the question one more time.
Okay, so if you find the item, say you have no knowledge of how things are created, right? And you find a watch outside. So either two things could be true. Either one of two things could be true. Either it put itself together or somebody created it, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't say somebody. I'd probably say like, yeah, something created it, and now it's my responsibility to figure out like what that something is. But like, it's more
Okay,
likely that
so
it's a
if
human. Go ahead.
okay, for something to create something, that means it has to be a consciousness with an intent to create, right?
Not necessarily. It just depends on what that thing is. Like, so, like, I don't think we need consciousness for like a start. I don't think we need. We just
Well,
kind of need like the right
the
material
argument
and the right
is
circumstances.
right. I get what you're saying. I asked the question that I'm trying to ask is everything that exists that's not natural, that's not naturally occurring, like, you know, a bike, a phone, a TV, things that we know were created by men, not nature. When you see things that are created by men, you don't assume that it put itself together, right?
Yeah, like I would assume that it's created by a human being, but this is also going to be because like I have priors. I see human beings like creating stuff like tables, chairs, watches, and so let's say that like I've seen like a watch put together, and then I come across some new item that I've never seen put together, uh, which could be like an Xbox 360, right? Since I've seen human beings create like TVs and other things, I would assume like, okay, there's probably like a highly likelihood that a human put this together. I look at the characteristics of this thing, and it seems as if a human put this together. Yeah.
Right, okay.
But thing, yeah.
Right, okay.
But
So,
but like really quick, like what you're saying applies to things that are unnatural. But what about things that are like natural?
right, we're getting to that. So, what I'm saying is, if
What about things that are like the natural?
if you know the things that are not natural, if we know that everything we have was created by someone, and we can give probably billions of examples of that, right? A light, a phone, a car. Why would it stop at nature and life? Why would there be no creator for those things?
Yeah, so like Ray
Because
Comfort uses this
what I'm
argument.
saying is
Oh,
you've never seen something randomly appear.
Yeah.
That would go against logic, right? Of what we can observe. We've never just seen something just randomly appear in our everyday life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so I would say like nothing, energy or matter can't really be created or destroyed. Yeah, like I would agree with that. And like the argument that you're making, Ray Comfort uses it, but the reason that like it doesn't really apply is because, um, oh, Bobby's telling me to be more entertaining. I'm a little bit tired, but but the reason that it doesn't apply, right, is because we're talking about unnatural things, things that we even have priors to, right? You know, Ray Comfort will say like when you see a building, when you see a car, when you see a painting, they come from like builders or painters or car manufacturers, right? This is given that we have like priors. But when it comes to the universe, which is like a natural process, we don't really have like the same kind of prior. That the universe comes from a source. I'm not saying like nothing created something. It comes from a source, but what reason do I have to believe that it's an intelligent mind?
Well, okay. How do you know something?
Nothing created something.
Okay. How do
Well, like, what do you mean by that? When you say like, how do I
like
know
what would
something's
you?
intelligent?
Because you're saying like your question was how do I know that it came from like life came from some type of intelligence, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Well, like, yeah. So like, my question would be like, why should I? Like, I believe everything came from a source. There has to be a source for everything. But why should I believe that it's like an intelligent mind?
Okay, you don't think your
Well, like maybe
body
there's some
was
kind of.
intelligently
Okay.
designed?
You know, I think there's a lot of things wrong with our bodies.
But do you think that it would take a certain level of intelligence to design a body from scratch and to make a cell and to make atoms?
Not at all. I just think that our bodies are the consequence of natural processes of like billions of years of like evolution. It's like over time our bodies were like evolving.
Okay. So, but evolution is a theory, right?
Yeah. And a theory is just a thesis that's backed by like a lot of factual statements.
Theory.
Wait, no, a theory.
So why is it still a theory? Why don't they just say this is what we know what happened,
you know what,
and this is a fact?
But no, like a theory would be a collection of facts that would be backing up like a certain like thesis, right?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Whenever
Go ahead.
yeah, so a theory would be a well established thesis, basically. So like, it's not like proven 100%, but it's very well established.
Right. So what I'm basically saying is either it's a fact or it's not. There's no really in between. So is a theory a fact or is it
thesis? A theory is a collection of facts. So I mean, it would be composed of facts.
Okay. But is a theory itself a fact though? Like when we hear a theory, are we saying that this is what we know happened for a fact, or is this what we theorize is what happened?
Well, I don't think like a theory is like a theory in and of itself is not a fact. I mean, it's like I don't really know how to say it. Like it's not in and of itself a fact, but it's like it's a thesis that's very well like substantiated, given the facts and evidence that.
Okay.
But okay. But here, let me bring up somebody who could probably explain it better than me. But like this is my understanding, but
okay.
Sure. There's a bunch of people who are really smart when it comes to science. Feel free to roast the shit out of me. Maybe I'm not doing a good job.
Yeah, so like when it comes to like science, a theory is just a collection of observed facts given an explanation. You can have like the theory of gravity, right? The theory of gravitation.
No. It's
You
an
tell me what
interpretation
define proposition
of
for me.
facts.
Wait, define proposition. Just give me the definition of what a proposition is. Give me the definition of what a proposition, and then I'll shut the fuck up.
Einstein began with the hypothesis.
Wait, I don't give a fuck about Einstein. I don't give a fuck about how much you jerk off.
Yeah, because you don't know anything.
Just give me the definition of what a proposition is. Give me the definition of what a proposition is.
Let's be respectful.
Here, I'm just gonna keep explaining to her what a scientific theory is. Right?
No, you don't know what a scientific theory is. I've already heard you.
Now I'm just gonna explain to her what a scientific theory is, and then you can
don't know it. Oh. So Einstein.
Wait, stop. Let Cosmic talk, and then we'll get to you in regards to like, what a theory is.
Einstein's theory of relativity is true. That's why it's called theory.
Stop.
A scientific theory, when it comes to oh my god, when it comes to science, right? A scientific theory is just going to be a collection of facts, right? That explain
a collection of
a given
facts.
hypothesis.
Right.
So you're going to have like
it's
the
a
theory of
mathematical
evolution, right? Now,
hold on.
The theory of evolution.
It's a collection of observable facts. Right.
Yeah. So like a theory is good. At least according to my definition, right? A theory is going to be like a thesis that is heavily like justified given a collection of facts and evidence behind it, right? So like the Big Bang theory is basically the theory that our universe expanded from a singularity point, and it's backed up by facts and substantial evidences, right? Like
maybe not the singularity point part, but yeah.
Like cosmic radiation, like the constant expansion of our universe. Earth is constantly getting further and further away from the sun. collection of
Maybe another
cosmic
thing
ray
later
beams,
point.
expansion of our universe. Earth is constantly getting further and further away from the sun. Yeah, there's a very small
I
things.
get a theory, and theories can change when we're presented
doesn't
with
matter,
new
though.
evidence, right?
No, they don't. They don't.
Yeah, but whenever you say
They don't.
it's
So
still
theories,
go ahead.
like when you say it's just a theory, like you're saying it as though it's just like some educated guess. It's not at all, right? A theory is just going to be a collection of observable facts, right, that are meant to explain some reaction within the world, right? So like take the theory of gravity, right? You don't think gravity doesn't exist, do you? Do you think gravity exists?
Yeah.
Okay, but yet gravity is called the theory of gravity, right? People call it the theory of gravity. It doesn't then make gravity not true, right? But like a theory, when it comes to science, is just a collection of facts to explain some given hypothesis or some given state of affairs, right? Like something within the world. Like evolution, the theory of evolution, that's just a collection of observed facts. And they just put on evolution as the name.
I agree.
Wait, hold on. Wait.
However,
Wait, hold on. Wait.
however,
Let me just check. Wait, context. I was kind of on point. I was, a collection of facts.
Yeah, that's your point. I think the only thing about as far as Big Bang, we're agnostic on the whole singularity bits. You want to invite Bro back up to give his own definition?
The other guy that came on, the contrary dude, he was like, "You're wrong. A theory is a fact," and I was like,
A theory is a fact.
"Yeah." He said a theory is a fact, and I was
well,
like,
science doesn't say a theory is a fact.
I mean, it's a collection of. It could be.
It's a collection
of
of
facts.
Yeah, I'm not sure what theories.
If by fact it just means that theories are true, then yes, I would say that scientific theories would best explain reality. And
Okay, but what I'm asking is, can't the conclusion of whatever's been being theorized, can it change when we're presented with new evidence?
No, it's not a conclusion. So theories are not like equations. It's not like 1 + 1 and the conclusion is 2. A theory is just an explanation, right? So like let's just take.
We can update theories with new data. If Arch is asking,
yeah, we can update theories,
with new data,
but it's not. Yeah, it's
Okay,
not like
I guess
theories
that's what
work
I'm trying to
towards
ask. Can the theory be updated when we're presented with new evidence?
yeah, let's say like
if we're presented with new evidence, yes.
Okay. So what if what we know about evolution right now is just what we know now because we haven't been presented with new evidence?
Yeah.
Well, the theory of evolution is just going to be what we know about evolution, right? So the facts about how biology works and change, we're just calling that the theory of evolution. Now, if there's new data, right, that shows that we change in different ways, then the theory of evolution would have changes, right? But that's not to say that evolution isn't true, or not to say that the original theory was false. That's just to say that we didn't have the data that which we have now.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess what I'm trying to say is we can only gather facts with what we can observe.
Yeah.
And we can't observe everything. I mean, we know that because science tells us that there's frequencies, there are things around us that we can't observe. So how do you...
Not to the naked eye.
Right.
There are things that we can't observe to the naked eye, but using other tools, we can observe them. Yes, we have like when you go on like your radio or something and you see like the little lines start to squiggle and whatnot or something because there's some frequency, right? That's showing a frequency. Like you're seeing what a frequency would look like.
But
Right,
even though we can observe something, we can't know why it's there.
No, we could, right? Depending on the thing, right? Like we know that like, something's hot because it has a lot of energy to it, right? Like the reason that the sun is hot or that, the sun emits heat is because, some factor about the sun, right? That's not to say that, I don't know how you're getting there.
Oh, yeah. But
because even if we can see many things and understand why those things occur and why they're even there in the first place.
Well, why don't we understand consciousness?
Well, that's a philosophical question. That's not scientific. We can see science through.
Well, we can.
There wouldn't be like you can go online. No, it's a philosophical thing. So like when you can go online and search up the word consciousness, and there wouldn't be a singular paper like going very in depth in like the world of science about consciousness because it's not a scientific question.
Yeah, both
Well,
really quickly. So
because science can't measure consciousness, right?
wait, hold on.
Well, it's not something that science does.
Wait, hold on. Given everything that you said,
Right. So science can't tell us everything.
wait, hold
Like,
on,
is that is basically what you're saying?
Wait, Nene, given everything that you've said, like, what would be like the evidence for like God existing? Like, what would be looking to make?
Well, I was saying all that to basically say that there is no way to prove everything. However, I do believe that God gave us both common sense and logic. And I think that
That's
too much of one without the other kind of distorts our reality.
Well, no. You're presupposing God here. Like with the thing with the science, with like science, right? Like obviously, you can't just say, oh, well, there's things that science aren't going to answer. Well, obviously, right? It's comparing apples to oranges. It's category error. That's like asking me, well, what's the square root of purple, right? Or hey, how come or how come a science teacher can't tell me about what happened in the 1800s in America, right? Or what was the first colony in America? Obviously, they don't deal in the same things, right? So when it comes to things like consciousness or questions that go outside of the field of science, that's going to be philosophical. And there can be answers to those, right? There's just going to be disagreements with the answers because it's philosophical.
Okay, well, what if God is just philosophical?
Well, it is philosophical. God is not a scientific thing. You wouldn't say that God is scientific, now would you?
It's more of a philosophical discussion, you know.
Not necessarily, no.
You think
But
you
in
think God has
knowing
biology?
that, but I'm saying in knowing that, since we're saying that God is philosophical, how could you say, whether or not he exists or not?
Because it's given that it's philosophical, there's going to be arguments for the existence and for the non-existence, right? And as an atheist, I'm going to look at both arguments and conclude which ones are better, right? It's not like science where you can just literally see the given facts. One, God doesn't have a body. You don't think God has biology. You don't think God needs to eat. God needs to sleep. You don't think God is material in the first place,
Why don't
so
I
there
think
wouldn't
that?
even be anything to be able to measure. You think God has a body? Do you think God is in one place at all times?
No, but I'm saying
Okay, do you think God has biology?
the reason why we think that is because of common sense. It's not because of something
Well, exactly.
that.
Just like given the fact that it's common sense, right? Is it not common sense to think that everything that science observes are things that are able to be observed?
Yeah.
Exactly. So if God doesn't take up space anywhere, right? Then God is not something that which you can observe, right? And if there is a way to observe him, it's going to be through other means, like energy or something like that, right? But you don't think God emits energy if he's literally nowhere, right?
Okay.
He may
Yes, but I'm
emit some
saying
force, but the force doesn't have something that the force isn't something you can observe.
right. But that just goes back to what I was saying earlier. We've never seen something be created without a creator. So why would it stop at nature? Why wouldn't God be the one who created life and nature?
Well, yeah.
Because
Wait, hold on. So really quick, like I said before, like I can grant you that like everything comes from a source, but I mean, like the way I'm defining God is like a mind that created the universe, right? Why should I believe like an intelligent mind created the universe?
Why shouldn't you?
I
You
mean,
don't think that nature and life points to some sort of intelligence?
no, not at all. I even have like a
Oh,
list
not.
of yeah. Like I even have like a list of flaws in the human body.
Okay. Well, do you think that the universe is built off of mathematics?
I don't think the universe is
that doesn't make sense. Math doesn't exist.
Yeah, like I think math is our way of describing things. It's a language.
Math doesn't exist in the same way that like a tree or that concepts or or gravity exists, right? Math doesn't exist in that way. Math is an abstract.
Math in the sense that the sun needs to be a certain temperature for life to exist.
Wait, where'd you get that?
Like that doesn't math. That doesn't exist based off of
I'm
math,
just
right?
asking.
That just exists in the way that it does, and then we use math to explain it, right? Like we're not like it's not like it's built off of math. It's not like the universe needs to have 1 + 1 = 2 for the sun to exist. It's just the sun exists, and we use 1 + 1 = 2 to explain how it works and how it functions.
I agree.
Right, but we use language to explain everything.
Yeah, so like our universe isn't inherently mathematical. I would say math is well used to describe like the objective universe, but yeah, like, and also like in regards to like what you said about like intelligent design or humans being intelligent design, like we're the we're the we're not even the final product, but we're just a product of like billions of years of evolution. And there's been so much
In theory.
flaws, and like you do realize that 99% of the species that exist on Earth have gone extinct, especially like prior like forms of like humans. And also like there's a lot of flaws with the human body.
Okay, well, I'll ask you guys this. Do you believe in universal laws? Do you think that they exist?
What do you mean by universal laws?
Such as like cause and effect, the law of gravity.
Okay. Even if we grant that those exist, what point are you trying to make in regards to God's
Polarity.
existence?
Well, I wanted you to first answer the question. Like, do you think that those things exist?
So let's say I say yes. How does that prove that God exists?
Because in order for those things to exist, doesn't there have to be a consciousness with an intent to put those things there?
No.
If the universe is built off of laws, wouldn't it be logical to think that something had the intent to put those there?
No.
No,
You're
you're taking what we already know about like things like legal laws, right? Like legal laws need people to be able to put them there, right? Or minds to be able to instantiate these laws, right? But when it comes to laws of nature and whatnot, we don't have that. We can't see things, new laws of nature coming into existence or anything like that, right? We just see what is already there, and we just prescribe things to, right? Or describe things in such a way that they act like laws because it's just easier for us to understand. So like the law of like, I don't know, say something like the law of identity, right? Like that's not something that exists in the world, and that's not something that somebody created, right? That's just something that already exists and we're just describing it.
Right. I would agree. But I mean, in order to describe something, it has to exist. You can't describe nothing, right?
Yeah, I agree with that, but that's not to say that it was brought into existence. I don't see, like you're saying that there has to be some lawgiver for these laws of nature. But
Well,
no, I don't see why that's the case, because if these laws...
How could you describe nothingness?
No, I'm not describing nothingness. What I'm saying is that there's no lawgiver. These laws have already existed, and we're just describing what's already been there.
Yeah, there's not really a need for like an intelligent mind.
We're describing existence, essentially.
Yeah, we're
describing things that exist.
Yeah, we're describing things
Right.
that exist.
Okay, so that does mean that those things do exist.
Okay, but that doesn't get to God. Yeah, I'm not saying nothing exists. I'm saying I'm agreeing with you. Things exist, and we describe how they exist. Yes.
Right. And so we describe those things with words that, like for example, like the law of cause and effect, or let's do the law of polarity. And for anything to exist, there has to automatically be an opposite of that. Would you agree?
The law of polarity.
I don't see why that's the case. No.
Well,
I don't see why that's the case.
Yeah, I don't see why that's the case either.
How not? In order for there to be hot, there's cold, there's up, there's down, there's left, there's right.
Yeah, because
There's good,
it's possible
there's bad.
for something to exist and yet not have. It's possible. Like, what would be the opposite of a hand truck? What's the opposite of like, I don't know, like half a blade of grass, right? Like, what's the complete
Well, those
opposite?
are not natural laws.
I mean, I don't
Those are
even
not
see
natural
what
laws.
like I don't even see. I don't even know what you mean by opposite of something, right? Because I don't see how light or dark would be the opposite of light, right? Because what would be half light? What would be dim light? Is that just not? Would that not be half of like some other version of light? Like, I don't know what you mean by opposite of something.
So you don't think that everything has an opposite? Like as far as what's
I
natural,
don't
like
I don't know what you mean by the opposite of something. Because what's the opposite of a
okay.
2-inch piece of concrete? What is that? What would that even look like? What would the opposite of a 2-inch piece of concrete look like? What
But
does that mean?
no, when I say the opposite, I'm saying like things that we know occur naturally, like temperature.
So,
Well,
There's hot, there's cold.
or so,
wait,
so
but
for
what about other
example,
things that occur naturally?
so for example, like one example of something that occurs naturally is like what would be the opposite of a tornado?
Yeah.
Not a tornado.
I mean,
Wait, but then what's the
No
opposite of not a
tornado.
tornado? Well, what's the opposite of not something? What does that even mean? Like, what does it mean to be the opposite of something?
Do I need to get a textbook definition of opposite?
No,
like
just the way that you're using it. It doesn't matter if it's like from any dictionary. I just want to know how you're using it. Like when you say something is the opposite of something else, what does that mean?
That means it's the polar. It's the polar opposite. It's the It's
What does that mean? What does opposite mean? What do you mean by opposite? I don't know what you mean.
yeah.
What does it mean to be the opposite of something?
okay. Well, what I'm saying is I think that the opposite of hot is cold.
But what does that mean to be? I don't know. Like you're saying, the opposite of hot is cold. But what does it mean to be the opposite of something? What does that mean? Because then I don't know what you're saying. To me, it just sounds like, the gobbledygook of
I
hot is
guess I
cold.
would say it would be the furthest difference of the item in question.
But then what's the furthest? If everything has a furthest difference, what's the furthest difference from like, a half a water droplet, right? What does it mean to be the furthest distance of something? What does that mean, and why should I care?
Well, so really quick, I do want to continue this conversation, but I do have to get to the other guest. Void, was there anything that you wanted to say to her before we might want to check out other guests? Or nah? Or Void, you with us?
You fall asleep. Every time I'm on a
We kind
panel,
of got off topic. We kind of strayed away off the topic, but
Yeah, absolutely. But come back anytime, and like, yeah, we can definitely talk more about anything you really want.
yeah, sure. I know there's other panelists, like yeah, but I did enjoy talking to you guys.
Yeah, come back anytime. We enjoy talking to you.
All right, you guys have a good night.
You too.
I'm gonna head out too. I have to go do something.
Okay, but yeah, thanks for coming up and like explaining some things. I could read up more on some things, but there were some things I didn't really know.
No, you explained a theory you explained the theory exactly how I did.
Okay. Cool beans.
Peace,
cool.
Kodo.
Yep, we'll see you around. But yeah, thank you guys for being here. I am a wee bit tired, but I'm still going to be doing 1v1 conversations. I've learned today that I need to do more research on the it's in my notes, like it's referenced somewhere in my notes, but the split experiment, I'll have to ask Matthew about it. And yeah, I have to write something about the flaws in humans in regards to like intelligent design. I don't think humans were intelligently designed. I think that there is a lot of flaws in our nature. But with that, we're gonna move on to the next guest. You might see me eating donuts or some kind of sugar to like get me pumped up. But if you guys could like and share the live to anybody who you think might be interested. We're gonna keep doing these 1v1s, and yeah, I'm just talking to people and trying to understand people's points of view and get an answer for does the Christian God exist? But yeah, I'm gonna move on to the next person, someone I haven't done before. Thank you for reminding me, Jimmy. I need to do more research on the slit experiment. The double slit experiment. Oh no, I'm not ending. I'm still here. I appreciate you, Jimmy. I appreciate you. I appreciate ya. Wait, do I have no guest? Oh. Oh, well, Jimmy, you're the only guest I have in the box, so yeah, you get a second turn.
You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
How does it feel to be awake now?
I'm barely awake. I'm doing this after a full day at work. But
I mean, like that guy that opened up your third eye.
yeah, I'll know about the whole third eye thing. This is not Doctor Strange.
No, it's real. Come on, tell me to do something.
Well, I think that's just me communicating to you, and then you do something.
Nah, you'll see. You'll see.
It doesn't really show me that like psychic abilities exist or God exists.
That's because you're not believing, man.
I mean, I believe we can communicate with each other.
That's true. That's true.
But yeah, I don't like. But do you have any other? The Christian specifically.
I did remember some things I wanted to talk about. For example, you said that humans were not intelligently made.
Yeah.
And that got me thinking. If there was alien, do you think there's alien life out there?
I don't know. I'm agnostic to it, but I'm open to hearing the evidence about alien life. But given how expansive the universe is, it's likely that there's aliens or other life forms that exist out there that we just don't have the technology to reach yet.
Okay, I agree. Now, what do you think that planet with alien life would look like?
I'm not sure until I see the evidence for it.
Do you have any idea of what the aliens might look like?
Not really, except for what I've seen in movies.
You know what I think? I think if there was aliens, they would have to look like us. It would have to look like Earth. Because we're the only examples that we know. All right? We have known. If there were sentient animals, I mean intelligent sentient, humans are not like the other animals. We're more conscious, intelligent. We're just different. I don't know if there's a term for that or not, but we're the only example that we have. So if there were aliens, I would suspect that they're just like us or similar. It doesn't have to be exactly the same,
Could it be? Well, is it logically possible that there could be aliens out there that don't look like us?
When I think about it, I don't know, because if that were the case, then they could exist here, but they haven't yet.
Yeah.
The key word is yet. Who knows about 2 billion years? Maybe there's another conscious, intelligent life form. But as we know now, it's already been like 7 billion years. And humans are the only ones that we have recorded to be like us,
Yeah. But how does this point show us that God exists?
Well, you know what they say? God made men in the image of himself. That's what I heard, at least. As you know, I'm not a Christian, but that's just what I heard.
No, you're not a Christian?
Nope.
Oh,
But
what are you?
when you think about it, I'm agnostic. But when you think about it,
yeah, that's right.
If God made men in the image of himself, maybe that explains why humans are so different. Maybe.
I mean, what does that say about God? Is God a compilation of different character traits?
I don't know what it says about God. I don't know if it says anything about God. Maybe he just wanted to put... Again, I don't know anything about the Bible. But I don't know if they explain why he made humans. I don't know if we're just a social experiment for him. I don't know. But that's what I think. That God could be one explanation for why humans are so different. Why we're so advanced. Because we're supposed to be in his image.
Welcome. Let me talk to you later. I do now have like an extra guest, but
all right, take care, man.
We will talk in the future, Jimmy. Thank you for being here. But yeah. Okay, before we get to the next guest, yo, Bobby, I'm like so tired, bro.
No, it's all good. You know what I'm
I'm
saying?
trying my best to be like entertaining, but like I get what you're saying. No, you're right. You're right.
No, because like when I go through all the like, 'cause I'm looking at, I'm thinking about how does one, like I was thinking about your shit. I was like, how does one do this shit? Like legit, how? And then you go scan the other like people in the same space, like born again atheists, or thinker, or all these others. Like you, because yeah, thinker will actually have like almost 200 people and still have like a full panel. But so what is it about? Like I think what's going on is the fact that it's hostile in these environments.
Mm.
You know, so think it will still have like a full panel, but still have like 100+ views. And I'm not too sure you know Thinker or not.
Oh yeah, I know Thinker. She's popular.
And to me it's like I've been in her space. But I don't get what's so. I guess maybe it's like these also the substance. Maybe people like the theology substance, like trying to find like contradictions in the Bible itself, or like, hey, God didn't do this, or God is fake, God, like Jesus actually has 3 wives, and this kind of like I don't care for this conversation. I'm not too sure what this conversation is pertain to do. Like I don't know. I just for me, historical evidence for supernatural claims they just don't click with me. But for like thinker, I guess is like if I could prove a history to be false, I don't know what's going on there. But I guess she gets it. She gets the view, and maybe people want to like.
See that?
I don't know. What do you think about Thinker? What do you think it does if a Thinker?
I actually do the same thing, right? Like I see other creators and they're getting like lots of views, and I'm like, how do they do it? Some people are doing 1v1, some people are doing panels, and they get like lots of views. I think one of the main things is they do the same thing over and over again, right? So people come to their channel and they know that they're expecting a panel or they're expecting a 1v1, so they have to be very consistent with their content. But yeah, hostility sells, but also like you also have to know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think it's not so much of the like the hostility could be, but I think it is the fact that you know what you're talking about. That you can, like you can speak, you sound confident. Yeah, the confidence definitely helps.
But here, let's get to Garrett, and then we'll talk later. What up,
How you
Garrett?
doing, my friend?
I'm doing all right. You got anything for me in regards to does the Christian God exist?
Yeah, I got a couple things for you. First and foremost, I just want to say thank you for letting me back up on the panel. This is my second time getting to speak with you, so I just want to say I appreciate the opportunity, man.
Absolutely.
Once again. So I don't know if you know anything about my background, but I'm a Messianic Jew, and so I'm a full devout believer in Christ. Apart from that, though, I am a textual critic. I'm currently in biblical studies. I study most of the Greek New Testament manuscripts, a bit of Hebrew as well, and I'm currently in school for this kind of stuff. And so that's just kind of my qualification before I start speaking. That being said, I don't know if I can give you any. I don't know if there is any scientific evidence that I can give you for the existence of the Christian God. I don't think that I don't think the intellectual pursuit of the Lord will be derived through a science study to find the Lord. I just don't know if that's how the God of the Bible works. That being said, because I can't defend that position, I wanted to ask you a question. Have you dove into any of the works for Dr. William Lane Craig by chance?
I've heard of him. He's a very prominent. I think he's a Christian apologist, right?
Yeah, I mean, apologist would be a word, sure. He definitely writes a lot of books that I'd be honest with you, I find super erroneous. I don't hold a lot of the positions he holds. That being said, though, I think he has a really, a decently old book that has a pretty solid foundation that I think is a good argument for the existence of a creator. And that's the Kalam cosmological argument. Are you familiar with that argument by chance?
Everyone on this panel is familiar with the argument.
Cool. Then I don't want to overexhaust it. Then I don't want to bore you either. I just think that is a decent. I think it's a decent starting position for the possible existence of a creator through reasoning. And once again, I'm sure people can tear it down, but I think it's decent. And I think that from an intellectual understanding of what God could be, I think it's a decent foundation or a decent starting point. before diving into biblical text. But
I'm
I would
gonna be
also go ahead.
or really quick, I'm gonna be honest with you. Yeah, like I've heard it a bunch of times. I haven't really explored like the flaws of the cosmological argument.
These are the flaws. Let me just say right out to get.
I was about to say Bobby might have some, but yeah, like for me, like I do need to like dive into it and really like. I've like heard of it. I've heard the premises too, but I just never really dove into it.
Oh,
There's
just
no.
to make sure. Just can you? Does anyone still run? Because I'm pretty sure it's just a generic. It's a generic first mover. I'm pretty sure.
I can give you the three. I can give you the three tenets that are super low summary, like a super brief summary, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Wait, really quick. I'm looking at a Wikipedia article. Is it just premise one? Everything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, therefore the universe has a cause.
Yeah, it's some generic first mover.
That's it. That's exactly. You read the exact thing I was gonna say. That's just like the super basic summary of it. Absolutely.
Oh, and then like the further premises would dive into leading
Each
you
of
to,
those. Well, yeah. So, like for instance, each of those you would dissect individually and further, right? And you would talk about the scientific evidence for the beginning of a universe. You would talk about the philosophical arguments for.
You don't need to use that up into the scientific evidence, all philosophical. You could just right out the get go. Why should I believe everything began to exist?
there are different worldviews that hold to like an infinite regress or an eternal universe, and then
Totally. Yeah,
No,
totally.
like right out the get go. Assume that in your worldview, right? Like everybody has like their own metaphysics, right? Not everything in everybody's metaphysics will begin to exist. There's some things that maybe some people are like a past finitist in some kind of sense. But like when I say that, just to say like maybe existence began to exist, but no one I've done really meet too many people where they will say that in their view like existence began. 'Cause, again, and when I say existence, we're not talking about like our existence. We're just saying the totality of the whole worldview, the totality of their metaphysics, right? So generally, not everyone just holds that, you know, everything began to exist. It's just not.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm more than willing to say that I don't have the perfect worldview and that other people have a different worldview and may have a different worldview that things began to exist or did not, things begin not to exist, right? In different metaphysical states. Like, I can understand that people have a totally different perspective on that. And not just perspective. I mean, the evidence leads us in different directions sometimes. And so, like, I'm not unsympathetic to that. I just, when the prompt says, does the Christian God exist? I think this, if we're trying to find the Christian God in an argument, I think this is a decent starting spot for at least the existence of a creator. I haven't even talked about the Christian part of it. You know what I mean? I just kind of wanted to, that was how I wanted to lead him into that. The debate, honestly, I'm not that you're not educated. It sounds like you're extremely educated. Looks like you've already heard this argument plenty and plenty of times. So I don't want to like beat a dead horse. You know what I mean?
yeah, you're totally cool. Like I'm not really that smart either, and I'm like building my worldview as well. So,
Yeah, totally. And so one of the things I would say, just another interesting piece of evidence that I like to look into is because what happened to me was personal revelation allowed me to become to a person of faith. Okay, I didn't find it intellectually. In fact, I lived as a grown up. I grew up as a Christian. I lost faith around the age of 16 or 17. And then by the age of 30, I had a personal revelation that allowed me to come back, or at least confirm to me that, hey, I was wrong for the past like 12 years. You know what I mean? That's kind of what happened to me. And there's no argument I think I can give you outside of personal testimony that would be anything that's movable or impactful. And I'm perfectly okay with that. That being said, one of the things that, from a historical standpoint, that really led me into a foundation of trust, at least in understanding the content and the context of what Christians call scripture, diving into the earliest, most foundational manuscript evidence has been not only delightful and an impressively fun journey intellectually to go down, but secondary to that, it confirms for me a lot of the historical accuracy and history of the early Christian church and the revelations that they believe, not only that they saw, but a couple of other writers happened to write about this very intense, interesting thing happening around that period of time. So I would say if you're not familiar with, lots of the old manuscripts, dive into that. I mean, even as an atheist, I think, one of my favorite professors is Dr. Bart Ehrman. amazing atheist biblical studies professor who translates a lot of our early church fathers in Greek today. I think it's a fascinating area of study, and to be honest, even if you don't end up in faith, it'll help everyone be more well-rounded when they talk about these subjects.
Yeah, I have been looking into like the resurrection recently and trying to dive deeper into that. And yeah, there are certain things I found interesting, and like certain things where like yeah, it kind of throws me off. But no, I totally understand what you're saying. And yeah, one of my friends, PRK, he always like recommends like William Lane Craig or like Bart Ehrman.
PRK, we're friends. We're friends.
Oh
We
yeah,
talk frequently. Yeah.
yeah, and he says the same things. Yeah.
Bart Ehrman is great. Bart Ehrman is great. I remember, so like before I came to faith again and had this personal testimony of revelation, which if you want to know, I'll tell you, but I'm not going to dive into that if you don't want to know.
We're chilling. I don't even think we
Yeah,
have any more guests. So yeah, you can go ahead.
no, you're good. So I mean, yeah, but like about 3 months before I became, or before I had a revelation that, hey, I've been wrong about this whole thing. I enrolled in Bart Ehrman's school over at UNC where he teaches. I decided that I would go back to school just for defense against Christianity. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to bolster my understanding of the contradictions and the variants and whatnot. And I still hold to the contradictions and the variants, but now when I pursue scripture, I pursue it in a revelation standpoint, meaning that like it's not inerrant. I'm one of those weird Christians who doesn't believe the Bible is inerrant. I find that it holds many errors, right? And many inaccuracies. Because I think that the position we should take when it comes to scripture is the Bible is written for us. It's not written to us. And I think that helps me understand framing a lot about the historical context and, to be honest, the historical inaccuracies that we see.
Hmm. Wait, so like, so what's your view on like the Bible? Would you say like the Bible is like, because yeah, like there are some Christians on this app that would argue that like the Bible has no errors. You just have to look at the historical context. It's like God inspired, or like God was like telling people.
I do believe it's the inspired word of God. It doesn't mean that man can't get stuff wrong.
Oh, okay. A lot of people take that position, which is more reasonable. Some people say like it's perfect, no errors, and other people say that men are experiencing God and like writing it down, but men are going to get things wrong or describe things in the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite little errors in the Bible, and this is not a theologically breaking error. It's not a major, oh my God, you found a contradiction kind of guy. You know what I mean? It's just simply ask, when Jesus sent his disciples out to preach two by two, did he tell them to take a staff or did he tell them not to take a staff? Two of our gospels say to take a staff and the other one says don't. It's just straight up a difference. It's not, it is a legitimate, unarguable contradiction. I think that that very alone would tell me that the Bible is not without error.
What do you
You
think?
cannot have both of those things. But it doesn't mean that I think that the entire understanding of what happened in Jesus' ministry is full of error, if that makes sense. I don't
What
mind small details being wrong.
What do you think about like? Because sometimes, like, I feel like my understanding the God of the Bible and comparing that with my metaphysical understanding, like my like episteme or something, like on like how God exists in my brain, like conceptually, like with all the properties and the metaphysics that like I learn when I talk to different people, and like in regards to ontology, the properties, and it seems like that kind of God sometimes like two different gods, like. So what do you
Between
think
the
about?
Old and the New Testament, is that what you're saying?
No, like my like sometimes like God, like the some Christians will have like different like metaphysics and like ontological properties that they bestow upon God, like his properties, logical.
I'd happily just say I agree. God's properties are mysterious. We have
Well,
certain descriptors that we have in the Bible that tell us some things that he can or does do. But I think the mystery of God is still super evident throughout the entirety of
well,
Scripture.
I mean, well, maybe yeah, maybe that's not you. I mean, maybe talking to other Christians. I'm
I
kind of,
can only speak for me. I can only
and
speak for
that's
me in
fair.
my
That's fair.
studies. Yeah.
But in this case, like, what do you when God like regrets? Like God says,
Mhm.
regress in the Bible. What do you make of God being able to like regret something? What does
Yeah,
that mean
no,
to you?
this is a super interesting point of scripture that God can look back on his people and look back on Saul and regret that he made him king. It is a phenomenal piece of interesting scripture when it comes to the emotion or the possibility of an emotional connection that God has. The way that I understand this is that God, it seems from the beginning of Genesis to the end of Revelation, it seems that God is wanting to gain a relationship with his creation. At the start, he thinks that's done through the law. I think towards the intercessional period, God is trying to find prophets to speak through to help guide. And I think that by the time that God empties his spirit in Christ and shows us that, we have a different complete understanding. But I think the entirety of it as an argument would be God is trying to understand and gain relationship with his creation, and he's trying to make pathways for that to happen. And so when I see a statement that God can regret something, I think that God is putting on a human emotion, that's something that he has instilled in us so that we can further connect with him and understand that God can get sad, God can not be happy with our choices. I have no problem with God regretting. I think it's a beautiful and interesting aspect that we can apply to what we know
So,
as our personal God.
in your view, you actually believe God. You would you also say God can change his mind?
I think I don't know the will of God, and I don't pretend to put God in a box. So I think God can do it as he pleases. Mm.
Interesting. Yeah, you said okay. Yeah, so yeah, you're definitely not like the other. Maybe like I'm talking to like I mean I talk to too many like philosophical like people that's in philo religion and especially in the theistic space for Christianity.
You speak to
So
a lot of people who are church people, probably people who grew up with a systematic dogma through a church tradition or through something
well,
like that. And I think
they
that that shapes a lot of people's conversations.
not so much that like maybe yes, but also people that have like a strong metaphysical, um, robust metaphysical structure for God and his ontology on his
Paul,
ontology.
yeah, Paul, at 7 of the 12 epistles that are attributed to Paul, whether they're actually written by Paul or not, 7 of the 12 end somewhere towards the end of the epistle with Paul saying something along the lines of understanding the mystery of the gospel. Even Paul, as confident as he can in all of his epistles, claiming that Jesus is Lord, still refers to the God concept of the gospel and God as a mystery.
So well, since I think I understand how you're approaching this, what about the story of Job? What do you think about like the idea towards the end of the story when Job is like cursing and like just kind of like frantic and wondering what's going on, just crying out, trying to like asking God, well, hey, why is this happening to me, right?
Mhm.
And God comes down to finally speaks to Job, right? And but all God really says to Job is like something like, um, I can I can command the rocks to worship me, and look how great I am,
Mhm.
and how dare you don't know more than me. But this to me, and of course, after God says all this, I guess this revitalizes Job's faith in God. He gives him that little interaction gives him the morale boost, and then he like for him to like win out the rest of the torture. But what I'm really trying to ask here is what I find fascinating about this story is um, Job is just crying out, just asking why this is happening to him, like what he has done, why this is going through, what 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 was going on essentially, because he's confused. And when God finally comes to talk to him, he doesn't really address at least that question. All he does is just
Mhm.
to say, I can do what I want.
Correct. Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
always found this part of the story so fascinating he because after that little interaction, Job gets his morale boost. He becomes he gets his energy that he needs to like win the race or whatever. But that original question contention that Job had was never actually addressed by God. It was just God just came in and said, "Yeah, I do what I want." What do
Yeah, no,
you
I totally agree. So, can I address the kind
go
of
for it?
your, yeah, so one of the things I would say is first and foremost, I don't think there's any good historical evidence to show that Job was a real person.
And of course,
Okay.
I know it's allegorical, so
But
it's just a story.
I know, but this is important for the way I position myself and how I understand the story, right? Because I do see it as a story and not as history. I also see that Job is clearly poetry. For over 8/10 of the entire book, it's poetry. Only the first part and the last part are considered narrative or written in a narrative style. As a textual critic, we actually think that that was probably added later to give context around the argument between the three friends and Job in the poetry section. The reason this is important to me is that to me, this seems like ancient Jewish text that is trying to make sense of why good things happen to bad people. And this is the inspired work that God gives them, is to tell them a story where nothing good happens and his friends all turn and say, hey, you must be a sinner, hey, you must be bad. And the story is that no matter what happens, you are still, if as long as your love persists, right, God will always have your back, God will always do this. And I think the story shows that Job loses that a little bit. God shows his might, and then Job at the very end is rewarded. And what I love about this is it's a completely old school Jewish metaphor that still persists throughout time today, where you have a group of people that have been continuously oppressed throughout the entire history of time that they have been around. And this is a poetic story, divinely inspired scripture that that most people would count to divinely inspired to help them understand and cope with why bad things happen to good people in the eyes of their Lord. Think that
I
is the
see.
best way to metaphysically
So
understand Job.
what you're saying, that when you say divinely inspired, are you saying that God like possessed somebody to write the story?
I wouldn't
Gave him
say
the idea?
I wouldn't say possessed, but like I have no problem putting a faith position together where like someone had a dream of the story and then wrote it down in poetry.
All right. Um,
That's a good question. Wait,
I
so
but
like in regards to like everything that's like God inspired in the Bible, like what do you mean by God inspired? Is God telling people what to write, or like are people? Did anyone have a genuine encounter with God? Given
Yeah,
your
several people do. And I mean, so I think that God can inspire you in totally different ways. Once again, kind of falling back onto my kind of keystone position, I don't put God in a box. He's allowed to do what he wants. So his methods can be vast, multiplicative. I can't say that word, sorry. And vast. And so, for instance, Jacob has a direct encounter, right? Moses, quite literally, if you think it's literal, transcribes onto those tablets, which this gets put into scripture. You have people like Luke, who is literally a physician historian, who is a traveling companion of Paul, who literally interviews eyewitnesses to transcribe a gospel story. And he's doing it, by the way, in a letter to a guy named Theophilus. In fact, most people don't realize the Gospel of Luke is a letter.
so there's something
So
interesting here then.
totally different ways you could be divinely inspired, in my opinion.
Right, so I'm gonna there's something interesting that's going on then here. Like, so you don't like God in the story of Job, you don't actually consider that to be the God that you serve, right? You just consider that to be like a fiction.
Oh, I mean, I think that this story. I don't think Job is historically accurate. I don't think there's a guy named Job who went through these trials. I think this is a poetry story. However, the God at the beginning of that story, I do think is meant to represent the God of the Bible. Therefore, I have no problem ma- believing. See what I'm saying? Like, I don't have to separate that because that's how he's positioned in the story.
Then at that point, what do you, if you think of the same God? What do you think about that response to Job then? If you believe that's the same God that you hold to,
I guess I don't understand the question. I feel like I answered it already, but maybe I didn't.
and what you answered was the fact that it was
I don't have a problem believing that's the same God. I just don't think that that's a historically accurate story. Sorry, excuse me. I apologize.
you're good.
But yeah, I'm happy to answer any more questions about the Bible. I know it pretty daggone well. If you'd like to ask.
But no, like I think it's actually awesome that you like study the Bible. I need to study the Bible. I have ESV. I have an ESV study Bible, and I want to like read it cover to
Okay.
cover with the study notes and stuff.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, ESV is not a bad translation. I know that everyone is probably going to have their favorite translation and try to steer you a certain direction. I will say that a factual thing that you can understand about translations, you have thought for thought, you have more literal translations. You know, something like the NIV is more thought for thought.
yeah.
However, without being too exhaustive, the NASB 2020, relatively new Bible, that is what I would consider the closest to the Greek manuscripts of the New Testament. And it utilizes not the Masoretic text for the Old Testament, it uses with something that we call the Greek Septuagint, which I'm sure you've heard of. It's probably what Paul and the disciples had access to. I find that that particular translation, it's not pretty, it's super, super rigid, it's not very poetically put together, but because it's following the oldest, most reliable manuscripts, I find that it gets me the closest to the time period and what they actually wrote down. So that would be my recommendation. The church I actually go to preaches from the ESV, so I'm definitely not against it, but it's definitely a much more conservative translation, to be completely frank with you, if
So
that's your speed.
so what's that translation that you mentioned? The NAS what?
NASB 2020, like the year.
Okay, I'll look into it. But
Yep. But yeah,
um,
listen, the Bible, regardless if you take a position if it's true, I find it to probably be the most interesting, most complex piece of work that's ever been created by the human race. As far as it comes to like its complexity, its meaning, and its derived beginnings, not talking about like scientific complexity. There's way more concepts out there that are,
Sorry
and
about that.
mathematical things that are not not in the Bible. But you know what I mean? Like it's
No,
I just find it the most interesting text out there, and there's so much to discover and study, even as a non-believer.
sorry about that,
yeah.
Garrett. I had to like do something there. I guess what I was trying to ask is like, if you do hold to that, like that, even in that fictional story, you hold to that God to be the case. The way I understood your answer is just that it's a story. I already understand that the story of Job is fictional. I think what I find fascinating is if you hold God to be that same God to be the kind of God that you worship, right? Even as a
Mhm.
story, I'm curious. I'm asking like, what do you think about God's response to Job when Job was crying out?
Oh, okay. Oh, perfect. As a human, I can see that that is a totally unfair and unjust thing for God to do. But once again, I am ignorant to the mysteries of God. So therefore, there may be you know, as a story, there may have been a greater plan in telling that story. Maybe his greater plan was for us to literally talk about it now. I don't know the answer. As a human, I can be honest with myself though and say that looks really unjust, and I don't know why God would allow
Do
Satan to
you,
mess with my boy Job like that.
no, no, do you think that you could have given Job a better response? You yourself, if
Um,
you was to write that story.
I guess my quick answer to that would be yeah, he probably could have, but he didn't.
That's fair.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah,
I don't think so many Christians wanted to say that God could have, they could have done, they could have said something better than even God.
I think most Christians, to be completely frank, are really caught up in defending their ideologies above being reasonable Christians. And I also think that the intellectual pursuit of the Bible, and especially when it comes to the etymology of words, the historical content and context of what's being written and read, will help more Christians become more well rounded in the reality of what Scripture actually teaches, shows us, and allows us to do. I think that that is a huge position that I take. It's why I don't tend to put my own self on lives that have a very hard position. I think that one of my favorite scholars of the Bible, and I think that you'll love this, both of you, as far as just like a little slogan, a position to hold. When all else fails, we'll always go with the data over the dogma. And then that's Dr. Dan McClellan who says that.
No,
Uh,
yeah, everyone knows Dan
yeah.
McClellan.
Of course, right. I think it's a great little slogan to understand. When all else fails, I will always go with the data over the dogma. Me and Mr. McClellan super don't agree on LDS and like his actual position, but I think that his scholarship shows a good, rigorous standpoint about how to approach text of the Bible and how to understand them.
Do you think that your belief in God is a more of a is due to your geographical location?
Normally, I would have said yes, but I think because I decided to become an atheist on my own accord, and then I had a personal revelation with a Christ encounter, that to me has just confirmed something. But I have no problem saying that the nurture and nature of where you grow up has a ton to do with your worldview as you come to adulthood.
How did you rule out some naturalistic explanation for your Christ encounter?
Can you say it again? Sorry.
Yeah, how did you rule out some naturalistic explanation for your Christ encounter?
So how did I exclude a naturalistic explanation? Is that what you said?
Yeah, like
Exclude?
what did you do? Like what was it about? Like that you like
My,
say, yeah, this has to be. There's no other way to reason it. This is the only way it has to be God.
yeah, so I was doing a kind of what our host was doing at one point. I was simply moderating debates between people. I was doing it for a couple of years before I turned 30, and since I was in school for biblical studies just as like a textual critic, also studied the Quran, the Torah, the Talmud. Like I said, I read both Greek and Hebrew. And so a lot of the times when I would get on these debate panels, as opposed to debating on one side of the aisle, I would simply just moderate. And not moderate in a way that like you ask the question, you ask the question. More of like if someone quoted scripture, I was just going to be there to make sure they quoted it correctly, whether it was Islamic, Jewish, or Christian. Those are the three I played in mostly. When I had my encounter, I was an atheist, very proud atheist, believed to be even called militant, if you will. Um, and so I think that the panelist could tell that I was a man of non-faith just from my responses. I don't have a good explanation of why I think that, but I think they figured it out. Okay. And once that happened, at the very end of the debate, the two people, if they could pray for me, one was an Islamic guy, one was a Christian guy. They both said a prayer for me. And one of the gentlemen, and I don't remember who said it, but just said something of like, hey, my moderator Garrett here, he would love to see a sign. I haven't prayed in like 12 years. Long story short, after he said that, I just decided to think of something that would probably like throw me on my butt for for a lack of a better term. Like, what would floor me? Not pray it, just think about it. And so I thought of a very specific scenario to happen in front of me in my backyard after checking out the area to make sure that there was none of these items present before I said, thought anything. And so walked outside. I live on a lake. Just fun fact, live on a lake. In fact, in my profile picture, I'm sitting on my dock, if you can kind of tell. So um, I just said I want to see a hawk come from the right pine tree on the top branch. I want it to swoop down, touch its right wing to the water. Once it does that, I want it to turn left, look at me, perch himself on my 2x6, and then just stare at me. I won't over romanticize or over drag it out. That happens about 30 seconds to 45 seconds later. I just start weeping and crying, realizing that maybe I was wrong this whole time. The guy who prayed for me and said that thing about my brother Garrett was looking for a sign, I realized was a Christian fellow. And I just felt that I was wrong for the past 12 years. I felt that
I
that
see.
was just,
So just
that, to me, what stopped me from understanding the naturalistic explanation was just when I walked out, I looked for any signs of like birds, geese, ducks, turtles, anything in the lake that I could see. I saw nothing. Therefore, I felt free to think something, and then that something happened to me.
right. So, the bird coming by your side. I think that's fair. I think I'm like sometimes like this psychology. I think I've done such a thing too, where like to be fair to you, right? I have asked for a sign, right?
Hmm.
And I've always wondered what a good sign looks like. As like agnostic, maybe atheist. I'm not too sure where I'm at anymore. Maybe I'm just more agnostic because I allow for logical possibilities,
Hmm.
right? So to be fair to you, maybe if you caught me at one point in my life, a sign like that would have been sufficient. But now that I think I want something more rigor, something
The
with more
thing that was
justification.
the reason it was sufficient for me, the major reason was, and I'll be very brief, I'll be quick as I can. The biggest thing for me was I didn't pray for it. Someone prayed it for me, and then it happened upon my thought. that was a bit strange, in a weird position to be in, as far as feel like a feeling of yourself. That felt very strange. The second thing that felt really weird was a couple of the things that happened to me after the fact. These have less credibility to them, but they are absolutely something that I experienced, regardless if you think of its faith or any intervention. I had a day where I went to a bookstore to get scholarship articles, and when I did, I had a girl come up to me behind me, never met her before, grabbed my left arm and just said, "Hey, I'm praying for you." And then she walked out the door. I walked out the door about 30 to 45 seconds later, couldn't find her, right? That was a weird situation, a very strange coincidence, and I'm fine with it being a coincidence. The thing that made it not a coincidence to me was when I got back to my town that night after work, I went into a grocery store, guy came out. Dude, when I say this was like the best looking guy I've seen in a long freaking time, like just everything about him was chiseled, just a good looking dude. Walks out, he grabbed my same freaking arm and he said, "I know it was you that changed his mind about something today." And he just walked away from me. He just walked away from me. And at that point, I was like, "Holy crap! This crazy thing that happened with this bird and this thought that I have during a prayer." And then I felt like two people were led to me to tell me some really prophetic stuff that I'd never met before, never interacted with. It was just like it felt like too much compounding evidence of the personal revelation that was coming from God for me to miss that train.
I guess so. No, that's fair. I mean, it's weird. I mean, I remember when I asked for God, and maybe again, like something like that, it could have probably done it for me. But now I feel like I need something stronger than what I could write off as coincidence.
Yeah, I
That's
love that,
fair.
by the way. Keep looking for something stronger. Like, never stop looking for something stronger. By the way, don't also close yourself off to the possibility that it could not also be true. Like, I'm not trying to spread my worldview like an
No, I
evangelize, like
understand. I
all the,
understand.
like, just pay attention to the world, because I promise you, in some way, whether it's naturalistic, scientific, the world is paying attention to you in some way. You're affecting this world by being on here. Pay attention to things
Mm,
happening around you. And just like your guys are doing, intellectually diving into these amazing slit experiments. I think I came on right before y'all were talking about that. Like,
Yeah.
dude, I think that the parallel universe stuff, the slit experiment, the quantum mechanics of this universe are beyond interesting. And I'm not blinding myself to the beauty and amazing things that science shows us about our naturalistic world. And
right.
just because I can equate those to possibly coming from a causer, using going all the way back to my starting point, the Kalam cosmological argument, right? Like, just because I can point back and say I think these can be rooted in a cause
What do you,
doesn't mean I'm ignoring the beauty of it. You know what I
what
mean?
do you think God, if God was to communicate with you, why communicate like this instead of more direct?
Oh, I think that
In a way that, let's just say that, you know what, it's fair. Maybe let me say that, yeah, this could have been God, right? But but when why didn't if God was to be the way, why don't you just say, maybe face through your wall and say, hey, I had this experience where this man faced him out, even if you can't prove it to us, right? You cannot say that, no,
yeah, I don't know. I
this is kind
don't
of
know
most
the answer.
deductively the case.
Yeah, I don't know, right? Because I don't know how. I don't want to pretend to know the mysteries of God. But what I will say is that when I look at Scripture, a lot of the times people are directly commanded to do something by God, they try to turn their back and run. And every time that God is mysterious and presents himself in a spiritual way, it tends to move people in a positive direction. Good
Right.
examples like Jonah and the whale. When Jonah is told directly by God to go preach to these people, he's like, "No, I'm leaving. I'm
Right.
going the opposite direction." And then when Moses sees a burning bush, he leads the entire Israeli people out of bondage. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where I don't pretend to understand, but it looks like
Right.
every time God wants to talk
Do you,
directly to people, they try to revolt.
do you think when God communicates with people, why would God communicate with people knowing they wouldn't they wouldn't understand or ignore the message? Like, why would God communicate knowing that that it's even possible? You could say, why would God communicate to someone knowing that they could be used that message for harmful purposes?
Yeah, I think that we all have free will in the construct of God's will. So I think that God has an ultimate plan. I do think that God has an ultimate goal for humanity, but I think he allows us to make that pathway ourselves, and he allows the people to get off. Using a metaphor for myself, even I say that God does allow people to get off the interstate off ramp, but he never blocks the entrance back on.
Oh, I guess the question is like, it seems like when God communicates in such a way, right? It seems to be the case that we could interpret in all kinds of ways. Like maybe God communicates clearly, but that's a failure on the recipient end, right? Maybe you have the faculties to understand it clearly. Some other person may not have the faculties to understand it clearly. So I'm
But
curious.
I think that's why we have the Bible. I think that's why we have a written word. I think that like when you receive personal revelation and you find that it might be apart from scripture, then you should understand that maybe your interpretation of the revelation is wrong.
I see. So even if you got a message from God, but it doesn't really, like, the
I
Bible
would
has not.
question if it came from God. Yeah, for instance, like say for instance, using a random example, I get a vision from God to murder, right? I, I look okay. I think this comes from God. I feel that the Spirit has come over me. I had a crazy revelation that I should go and do this act, but oh wait, one of the Ten Commandments says I don't do this. I should do this. Oh, I want. I to me, I'm immediately thinking this hasn't come from God. This is not from God.
All
This
right,
is something maybe malicious. This is maybe something that's trying to lead me astray. I think that you always have a rubric, and that is the scriptures.
all right. And I think I'm not too sure. I don't go into all the scriptures, but it seems like there are, especially in the Old Testament, where God may have certain commands that are very odd. All right.
You're not going to like my answer. I don't pretend to know God's will. Once again, God can do
Well,
as He pleases. Is His playground.
it seems I'm just saying, like, do you think God can communicate in such a way to his creation that is very clear and concise, that's undeniable, that there's no room for mistake? In the same sense where you could like walk out and look at the sun and know the sun's there.
I fundamentally just didn't understand that last statement.
Uh,
Can you say it again
yeah.
for me?
Do you think God could communicate with his creation that's so clear and concise, right?
Oh, well, the
In
answer
the
is
same.
yes. The answer is probably yes. He can. It's just he doesn't choose to do it in that way.
Well, what's the utility?
Say it again.
What's the utility of
I
why I
don't.
choose it?
A
Hmm?
toldie. I don't know the word you're saying. I'm sorry.
Sorry, can you hear me? I say utility. What utility does God
Oh,
have for choosing to do
I
otherwise?
feel like God has infinite utility. It's just what he chooses to utilize. And I think that sometimes God could use a bird. Sometimes God can use a living prophet. Sometimes God can use a bush. I feel like the utility is just up to what God wants to utilize.
Well, okay, maybe the question is, what does God want?
God wants a relationship with his creation. I think that
Right.
is, I said that earlier. I think it's pretty evident through the entire part of scripture that one of the underlying goals of what God has with his creation is to have a relationship with him.
All right. So you do think this is the best way? Do you think it's the best way to do it?
It's not what I think. It's just the way it's happening. I can disagree. Like that's one of the things I love about Christianity. I can super disagree with God's methods. I think they're terrible. I think that they've created division. I've got wars as evidence of what's happened because of God's word, but it's just not it's not my playing field. It's his.
Right. I mean, but you agree that if God wants a relationship, it could be more efficient at least.
In my worldview, sure. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of ways it could have been easier. It just wasn't.
Do you think God wanted it that way to be harder?
In some ways, yes. Some ways, I think that it's scriptural to strive for your Lord, and strive does not come without hardship. So, yeah, I think that sometimes He does want it to be hard. He wants His creation to not be handed everything. We get the free gift of salvation through Christ, but what we don't get is we don't get freedom to live apart from God. And we should strive. And sometimes the challenge is the hardship in order to be resilient in our faith. I think that God does show us that in many areas of scriptures.
Then it seems to me that God just doesn't want a relationship. He wants something else.
Can you point to some evidence that would tell me he wants something different than a relationship?
I mean, part of it could be a relationship, right? But if he wants that, I think he could just instantiate like a world where that's the case very efficiently, right? But he chooses not to. He chooses to do like something else, where it's just like, all right, it's not like you have to do all this A B C D, but I'm
What's
not
the
too sure why.
ABCD?
You
What's the
can say
ABCD?
spiritual world where we all have a relationship with God.
What's the ABCD that God requires of you? Just curious.
Sorry, I'm doing a couple things. Coco, you can talk.
Oh, shoot, I think after this I might even go take a nap because I'm a little bit tired. But no, I kind of argue the same thing, right? Like God wants a relationship with us, but it feels like sometimes we have to like jump through hoops to get to Him. I agree with you when it comes to the Bible. It is filled with like poetry, with allegories, with metaphors, with a lot of like literary devices. But I feel like to truly like understand God or understand like this literature that he's left us, right? We have to like do so much study and like, look at the ancient culture of the time and like, look at the Hebrew words and the Greek words and understand like the true meaning. And then people are constantly praying to God, and sometimes God is answering their prayer, sometimes he's not. And it seems as if this is like, I forgot who painted that painting, but that painting where there's two guys on the clouds and they're reaching for each other, and like one hand is like reaching out vehemently while the other hand is kind of like passively reaching out. I think that humans study and pray and devote themselves like eagerly reaching out, right? And like God is kind of like passively like giving maybe some people sprinkles and some people like nothing, and they end up leaving the faith. But do you sometimes get that feeling too, or?
I'm super sympathetic to that feeling. I will say that God knows the hearts of men and women, and I feel like he is methodical in what he chooses to show, spread, and for people to see. I think, and so because of that, one of the things for me, like not to put myself on any pedestal, but like I believe that it was used for my debate tactics. I was used for my intellectual pursuit of the Lord in order to help get more people to understand the nature of Scripture. I do believe I was led in that area. Doesn't mean that I think that I'm 100 or that I'm not sympathetic to someone's worldview and can be respectful about it. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things where God is a mystery. I think that there's so many areas of Scripture that tell us that God's a mystery. We understand some attributes, we understand things He can do, things He does, but I don't pretend to know God's will, and I definitely don't want to put Him in a box. And whoever He chooses to reveal Himself to, that's amazing. I think that that is all part and parcel for the glory of God, and I think that I'm here for that reason,
Do you think
at
that
least to some degree.
do you think that somebody who would want to have a relationship with people would try to like not be so mysterious to them?
I, to be honest with you, I think that some of these people may have just missed Him.
Hmm. I mean, but also like if that's the case, if like some of these people have missed God and like they're trying to like have a relationship with Him, like if God wants a relationship with us, can't He just communicate in a way that we would clearly understand Him?
Yeah, once again, not to repeat myself, but yeah, he absolutely could. He just doesn't.
Yeah. But I get that. Yeah, like maybe there's something that's like beyond our understanding or something.
Yeah, I'm honest about the fact that I think that there could be, in my worldview, a completely much easier, simplified way to get this done. But I'm not God, and I don't pretend to be.
Yeah. No, no, and I totally get that. That's the thing that like confuses me. Yeah, like divine hiddenness would be like the issue that we're discussing. Um, and
Yeah,
yeah,
but see, my actual position though, I just to be clear, and I'm gonna probably drop after this so I can let you go get a nap. Just to be honest with you, I want to be respectful.
that's all
But
good.
I don't think the hiddenness of the divine is as hidden as people think it to be. I think people result quickly to a naturalistic explanation when sometimes yes, we may be able to understand it naturalistically. It doesn't mean that the unmoved mover didn't have a hand in this work. A lot of times, like for instance, I used to get super upset about this when I was an atheist. I was like, people would go into a surgery at a hospital and you come out and go, "Thank God." It's like that dude worked on you. What are you talking about?
I
But
still hear that to
I
this day
have
on TikTok.
yeah, but that bothered. It used to bother me so badly, and by the way, it still does. It's still literally as a believer, I get like this. ringing bone sensation where I'm like, that's so cringy. Stop taking away the credit to this hardworking man or woman that just did this. But what I will say is I've come to understand that I have no problem taking a position that God is leading that hand. I have no issue with that naturalistic explanation of how the surgery was done, but I have no problem saying that God had a part and parcel with the God, with that hand being led, those cuts being so precise, that surgery being wrapped up perfectly. And that is what I love, part and parcel with science and how God's mystery can work.
Oh, okay. Okay. Like, I can see that. I mean, my question would be like sometimes like I mean, like people assign like this meaning of like God to things, but like I don't really see like where God has a hand in it. Like I don't see any like mystical energy that's like floating into the hands of like the doctor. And so like I don't really
Agreed.
see like God's at play.
Yeah.
That's sometimes
Yeah.
kind of yeah, that's sometimes kind of my issue with like anecdotes. Like there's no like symmetry breaker between them and like naturalism being able to explain like the phenomenon. But
Yeah, no, listen, that's a perfectly valid, logical, and understandable position to have. And I wouldn't try to argue away from that. All I would say is that, like, one of those things I said earlier, I said, just like, make sure you're paying attention to the world. I think that you would agree with that as a non-faith person. Like, just pay attention to what's going on around you. And I think that the only thing that would be able to convince someone who is this intellectually in depth with the science and how the world is seeming to operate is to have a personal experience. And that's only going to happen if you're paying attention. That's all.
yeah, and like I'm open minded to it. Don't get me wrong. Like
Oh, I know you are. I wouldn't be
mhm,
talking this like I wouldn't be talking this emotionally with someone who I felt like was completely closed off to my position.
yeah. Yeah, I actually like you were saying about being like a vehement atheist or like a really strong
Hmm.
atheist. When I joined this app, I was like a very strong atheist. I was like, God definitely doesn't exist. Like, fuck Christianity, because I was like really hurt from like some stuff I went through. But
Hmm.
it was on this app that I actually went from like hardcore atheist to like agnostic actually, because I think there's good arguments for both sides. Um, I'm just trying to see like it's like I think the best way to explain it is like I'm walking on like like a tightrope and like both sides are making really good arguments. I'm like trying to figure out which side to fall into, basically. But
Yeah, listen, and please dive into your research, dive in just whatever it is. I think you're doing that now on these panels, man. And I just want to continue to encourage you to do so. But I'm gonna let you get off. I mean, you've been talking about being tired and trying to snack down donuts to stay awake, so
oh
I
no,
feel
you're
like it
totally
may
good.
be a good time to get you to get some sleep. You know what I mean?
Wait, actually, I have one more question for you. Wait, so you went to school for like biblical analysis or something, or like critical like
Yeah, so I'm in school for biblical studies as a generic thing, but my specific area of study is in textual criticism.
oh, what were you planning on doing with it? Because like I was thinking of like I went to college, but I dropped out. But I was thinking like I'm really interested in like religious studies and like maybe just to have a degree. A lot of people get degrees and don't do jobs that have to do with their degrees. So like I
You're
was
talking
thinking,
to one of those people. Like literally, I'm an IT director. That's what I do as my day job. Fun fact: if you want to look me up, I'm the IT director for a company called HB Next. You can find them on Google.
okay.
But no, it's a great company. They're all across the southeast. But that's who I work for, and so that's my day job. I mean, that's my day job. I work in IT hardware and software repair, onboarding, offboarding, marketing, website development, the whole nine. But I went back to school over a year ago for biblical studies as an atheist because I just enjoyed the intellectual pursuit of what scripture looked like, regardless of my faith position. And
See,
I plan to do that just as a personal thing, not a change of job.
see, that's like that's me. Like I'm an agnostic, and like I don't really think God exists, but I'm open minded to it. And I'm like to get a degree just to get a degree so I can get better jobs. Like I
You could
could
just you
do
could just do what
Just
I
get a
relative.
did.
degree in
I went to
communication, Co. If you don't want to do math, just get a degree in communication. You could get like an HR job or something.
yeah. Yeah, like
But like
I do
I was
account.
thinking about going back for like religion, like just to study.
Like
Two degree
what
in
you can do,
communication, bro. I'm
Coco,
telling
is
you.
like just get a degree for the job. Like I do accounting, finance, or whatever. Like I'll do. Oh right. Well, like, ideally, you should do whatever that makes
No,
you
I don't
happy.
think Co would like business, dude.
Well, yeah, no, I mean,
Business is
he doesn't
really
have to do business, but Coco, you should do whatever that will make you
bro. I'm
happy,
saying
and that
communications.
you know has some the way whatever makes you happy. Plus, you know that you can like carve out a route to like stable living. So you may have to like sit down and think about what do I like and what kind of like demand is out there in the market, and how do I like what paths do I have to like walk through to get here. It's like because I'm not saying you should just like do business, but you should do something that makes you happy and not just for the money. I think. But
I agree with that 100%.
as far
I
as
agree
just
with that.
like biblical studies and like this kind of stuff, you could this is just something you could do. Like Garrett just so happened to have the money that he could just go back to school to do it. But like Sir, for example, just like does it on the side, just learns distance. The internet is free.
Yeah.
You don't have
Yeah,
to go to
that
school.
is true. That is true. Just be careful with your sources. Make sure you're getting taught from something credible if you're just going to go self-taught. But I will say that was lucky. I've worked hard in my life. I did have the money just to go back and re-enter school on a personal thing. That is absolutely true. I'm not going to pretend that I didn't get lucky or work hard for that ability for that opportunity. But just so you know, I have a degree in computer science. That's my formal degree that I use my job with. But my minor is a minor in philosophy. So, I was always interested in that type of talk and study, even as a computer science guy going into college out of high school. And I ended up with a funny minor of philosophy out of all of it. You know what I mean? So,
Okay. Oh, Bob,
can
you have a
we,
lot of noise.
Bobby, you are like in your jacket pocket or something, my guy.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. But PRK, what were you gonna say? Oh, PRK, were you gonna say anything?
All right. Well, hey, PRK, it's good to see you again, buddy. If you can hear me.
Oh, maybe PRK is busy or something.
It's all good, but it's late for me, Co. I'll be honest. I got work early in the morning, so and I got out of school late tonight, so
I'll see
I'm
you
gonna
around.
go hit the sack, my friend. I appreciate you allowing me to come back on. And by the way, you're the only creator that's ever sent me like a personal message after I was on your panel, so I just want to say I appreciate that, man. It's really cool.
Oh, okay, yeah. Like yeah. Everyone that follows me, I follow them back, and I send them like messages and talk to each and every single one of them. Yeah, like I want to be like a really cool creator and a down to earth guy and connect with everybody that supports me. But yeah,
Well, without tooting your own horn too much, you're doing a phenomenal job, my friend, and I can't wait to come back for another conversation.
absolutely. Yeah, I can't wait either. But
All right. Well, good night, guys. Thank you, panel. I'll talk to y'all soon.
I'll see you guys
Later.
around. I'll see you around. I might stick around for a little bit, but yeah, I am trying to go collapse in my bed. But yeah, like today I'm not getting many messages from Twitch, but I am getting a lot of messages from YouTube. People are in my comment section, like I'm live on YouTube, and people are talking and talking about philosophy.
Nice, bro. That's
Yeah,
good.
but oh yeah,
Always
but
good to
like
get.
yeah. Speaking of PRK and Bobby, yeah, like I've been finding the resurrection to be very interesting. We always talk about it and chop it up.
Yeah.
Like no, like I want to see. I'm starting to see the full picture. I'm getting like a better picture of like what's going on there and trying to see if it's convincing or not. But
Yeah.
yeah. I think the best thing that you've got for the resurrection is probably the Corinthians Creed. I think that's going to be the best thing for the
Oh yeah.
resurrection.
Yeah, I would agree.
That'd probably be the best thing.
Have you looked into the BGV theorem, Co?
No.
It's a theorem by cosmologists that state that the universe began to exist.
Oh, actually, that dude that was just on here? He was suggesting William Lane Craig and
Yeah.
Berman.
I think William Lane Craig's great. he thinks that the universe began to exist because the BGV theorem, which is Borguth-Vilenkin. So have you heard of the conformal cyclical model?
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that term.
So just like that is a model that a lot of atheists use to say that the universe is eternal, there's a model called the BGV theorem that says the universe began to exist, that it was a cosmic beginning. And so this is what William Lane Craig uses as an argument. He says the universe began to exist, and to motivate that premise, he uses the BGV theorem, which is developed by the scientists Borguth and Vilenkin. And so if the universe began to exist, that would mean some immaterial thing brought it into existence. Would you agree?
Yeah, there would have to be like some kind of source that brought it into existence.
And it would be immaterial, right? Because the universe began, matter came with space and time, and those things began to exist, right?
Wait, why does it have to be immaterial? Why is that entailed?
Because the matter began to exist. Matter is contingent. It didn't always exist. It began to exist. That's what the BGV theorem is saying.
Oh, that's what that theorem is positing?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, yeah.
And it's a cosmology. That's what I'm saying. Look into it, because it's just like the conformal cyclical model. It's just a theory that contradicts it.
Yeah.
And it says the universe began to exist. And if that's the case, and there's an immaterial entity that's powerful and brought the universe into existence, then this immaterial entity, the only thing that we can conceive of it being is a mind. Because what else can you think of that is immaterial that can bring about a universe outside of a mind? Can you think of anything?
Well, just because I can't think of anything doesn't mean that like it's automatically like a mind, but right. So like
we can't conceive of anything. It can be aside from a mind. It has to be. What can it be if it's not a mind? But yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. No, that is interesting though. The BGV
theorem. Yeah, you should write that down, bro.
I've already put it in my notes actually. I typed it on my Apple MacBook.
Nice.
But
yeah.
But then what was the other theorem for like the
conformal cyclical model?
Yeah, wait, spell that out for me.
CONFORMAL cyclical.
Okay.
Model.
And people use that to argue. People use that to argue for an infinite universe.
Yeah, an eternal universe. Yeah.
Does Ian use it? Because I know he holds to an eternal universe.
Probably.
Interesting. Okay. Awesome. But yeah, there's this document that I'm working on. It's called like my worldview, and I'm writing down a bunch of things. Like I wrote down like I don't believe Jesus rose from the dead, and every single thing we've talked about in regards to Jesus' resurrection, I've posted in there. I've also written like other things about my worldview, and yeah, I just have this like giant like it's now 26 pages of like what I believe, and then also like some stuff that Shark told me, and like notes on things, and like
yeah, man, I'm really just betting on the fact that the universe began to exist, and like I don't think anybody knows what's going on, and like if whether or not there's a God. And I think you just have to guess, bro. Like at this point you just have to guess. But
like before I even started this project, I already knew that was the case. I think that we're never going to be able to study all the information that's out there. I think for the atheist and for the Christian, you study as much as you can, and then you do have to take a leap of faith.
Yes.
Make a claim.
Yeah.
But it's going to be like probability based.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, bro. Like if God does exist, which I suspect he does, it is an amazingly interesting way that he's done his things. It's very interesting. Yeah.
But yeah. Honestly, with that, I'm gonna call it a day, and I'm gonna go to sleep or bounce around to some other lives. But thank you guys for being here. I really do appreciate it. I'm gonna call it an early night. I'm tired AF, but